In our modern world, where things are always changing and life is unpredictable, the old wisdom of Stoicism can help us find inner strength, peace, and real wealth. Stoicism is more than just a philosophy. It's a set of useful tools for dealing with life's ups and downs. This is about developing a way of thinking that helps you not only survive life, but also thrive in it, no matter what. Building a calm mind is all about this, and that's the path we're taking today. You could face the challenges of life with unwavering resilience, where mistakes don't stop you but make you stronger. This is what Stoic resilience is all about. It's more than just being tough. Building a mental fortress that will not only help you stick with things when things get hard, but also keep you calm and clear so that problems become opportunities. The Stoics didn't just put up with bad things, they welcomed them as a way to make them stronger. But resilience isn't the only part of this philosophy that changes things. Also very important is learning to accept that some things are out of our control. There is great wisdom in understanding and accepting the things that can't be changed in a world that is always trying to get better. "It is what it is" is not a sign of failure. It is a strong phrase of freedom that frees us from the chains of unchangeable events and helps us focus on what really matters. Now think about wealth. Not the temporary wealth that comes from getting things, but a wealth of character, a richness of spirit. Getting rich the Stoic way isn't about getting more stuff or fame. It's about making your inner life better. This wealth is something that can never be taken away, and it grows stronger with time and experience. Not only is a complete Stoic guide to becoming wealthy a roadmap to money, it's also a plan for living a life full of virtue, happiness, and deep contentment. But how does someone become unbeatable in a world that is already weak? The answer is not to look for power outside of yourself, but to use the strength that is already inside you. Through his 7 letters that change things, Seneca's ageless wisdom does more than teach. It awakens. It's about going beyond the normal and not being affected by chaos and strife in the outside world. This power isn't about controlling other people. It's about controlling your own feelings, thoughts, and deeds. Remember that developing a calm attitude takes time as we go through these lessons. Every step of the way, you'll learn and grow. It means paying attention to your thoughts, questioning what you think you know, and making sure your actions are in line with your core values. It requires discipline, courage, and, most importantly, wisdom. As you learn more about Stoic philosophy, get ready for changes in both how you think and how you live. Adopt the ideals of inner power, acceptance, resilience, and wealth in virtue. Develop a way of thinking that not only stands the test of time, but also thrives in it. Building a Stoic attitude is what this book is all about. It will take you to the very heart of personal power and timeless wisdom. Imagine an experienced sailor on rough water, steering through the storm without getting scared and steadily changing the sails. That skipper has built up a resilience and a natural ability to dance with the storm, so he is not completely fearless. This picture is a metaphor for our lives, which are full of unknowns, problems, and rough days. However, just like the skipper stays steady, you can also develop a strong will that is based on resilience. The word resilience comes from the Latin word for to jump back or rebound. It means being able to get back up after a failure, deal with change well, and keep going when things get tough. It's the anchor that keeps the sailor steady when the storm comes. For some, resilience seems normal, like they were born knowing how to handle the rough waters of life. For some, it looks like a skill that has been carefully developed over many years of practice. But its worth can't be overstated, no matter where it comes from. Resilience is not only helpful, but essential in a world that is fast-changing and is full of chaos and uncertainty. It's the line between people who give up when things get tough and people who can handle it. But how does one develop this deep quality? Can we build unshakable resilience by following the advice of old philosophy, which seems far away and unrelated to our modern lives? Stoicism, a classical philosophy for a contemporary issue, has solutions. Stoicism is more than just a philosophy. It was born in the lively marketplaces of ancient Greece and grew in the halls of Roman power. It's a way of life that comes from a deep understanding of what it means to be human. Stoicism tells us to accept the things we can't change and work on making our actions, beliefs, and feelings better. Stoicism is frequently mistaken for a school for cruel people that teaches emotional restraint. At its core, it urges us to understand our feelings better and guide them in ways that are in line with virtue and reason. Don't think of it as not having any feelings. Think of it as the best level of emotional understanding. The Stoics believe that every difficulty offers a chance to put virtue into practice, that every failure teaches wisdom, and that every happiness should be enjoyed but not overly attached to. They knew, maybe more deeply than many of us do now, that life is short and that fighting what is going to happen is pointless. Stoicism is the skill of making an anchor out of resilience. Acceptance, understanding, mental distance, and the desire of virtue are the cornerstones of resilience, which are the very concepts Stoicism upholds. Stoicism is a way to find your way in a world full of passing joys and growing problems. In other words, it leads us away from the obvious and toward the deeper. Stoics see bad things as chances to grow, while others see them as disasters. When bad things happen, a Stoic doesn't ask, "Why me?" but rather, "What lesson is life teaching me?" The Stoic way of dealing with life's problems is not to sit there in silence and suffer, but to move through them with grace, wisdom, and inner peace. This song is about realizing that we can't stop life's events, but we can change how we respond to them. There are many self-help books, motivating speakers, and life coaches in the modern world that give many ways to improve mental health. Many things are useful, but only a few have stood the test of time like Stoicism. Stoicism has been a guide for politicians, thinkers, sports, and regular people for more than 2,000 years. The fact that it is still relevant today shows how deeply it understands people and how to live. This deep philosophy tells us that life is temporary and that we should focus on what really matters: our character, our deeds, and our memory. The power of quiet wisdom could be used to build resilience. Imagine going through life's worst storms with a calm mind and seeing problems not as problems, but as chances to get better. This trip will take you deeper into the Stoic principles. Along the way, you'll find the tools you need to build an unbreakable spirit, strengthened by virtue and wisdom. How about you? Are you ready to handle the rough waters of life like a seasoned sailor? We are about to start our journey into the heart of tough resilience. Let's get below the surface and find the most important parts of this useful trait. Without them, even the most experienced sailor would be lost at sea. Being resilient is a lot like having emotional flexibility, which means being able to snap back to shape after life difficulties have stretched, twisted, or bent you. But this kind of comparison might be too narrow because it suggests going back to the way things were before. Real resilience isn't just getting back up, it's also getting ahead. It's about making the experience a part of your life and using hardship to help you grow. You don't go back to the way you were before. You change shape and become stronger and more complex than before. In our always-on, hyper-connected world, the noise of life's demands, like social pressures, work problems, and personal battles, can be too much to handle. These days, life can feel like a puzzle with obstacles at every turn. When world problems like pandemics, social unrest, and climate change are added to the mix, resilience is no longer just a good quality. It's a must. The psychological security keeps us safe, the emotional intelligence leads us, and the spiritual wisdom keeps us going. From a psychology point of view, resilience is more than just not having any mental health problems or signs. It also means having good traits and ways of dealing with problems. Many psychological factors have been linked to resilience, such as self-awareness, self-regulation, positivity, mental quickness, and strong social ties. Studies have even shown that these traits can be improved with focused approaches. This goes against the idea that resilience is something you either have or don't have. A wide range of viewpoints on resilience can be found in philosophy. Even though we're talking about Stoicism, it's important to remember that many thought systems have wisdom on how to develop resilience. The idea of non-attachment is taught in Eastern beliefs like Buddhism. This idea fits well with the Stoic ideal of emotional separation. Existentialism, on the other hand, says that the strange and hard things that happen in life are necessary for real living. In their own ways, these beliefs help us understand resilience in a more complete way. In order to not only live, but also grow in the face of hardship, resilient stories are woven into the fabric of human life. We will learn more about Stoicism and find the timeless principles that can help you handle life's storms with ease and come out better on the other side. History. Nelson Mandela, for example, came out of 27 years in jail with a strong will and a goal for a united South Africa. Not only did his resilience change his life, but it also changed the destiny of a nation. Or, let's go even further back in time to the Roman philosopher king Marcus Aurelius. While writing his thoughts, he ruled an empire that was in chaos. The resilience and Stoic philosophy are demonstrated by these. His works show that he was a strong man who was committed to virtue and wisdom, even though he lived through wars, plagues, and political betrayal. Lastly, let's not forget about daily resilience. For example, the single parent who works multiple jobs to support their family, the cancer survivor who uses their experience to fight for better healthcare, or even the college student who overcame failure to do well in their classes. These are the stars who don't get much attention. They are a quiet reminder of how powerful and common resilience is. When we look at the Stoic concepts that follow, you'll see that each one gives us a different way to understand and build resilience. These principles provide a strong framework for navigating the complicated nature of modern life, whether you're in charge of a country, a family, or your own growth. They give us the tools to not only get through the storm, but also to master it, to turn our struggles into victories and our problems into opportunities. These basic ideas about resilience will help us as we learn more about each Stoic principle in the parts that follow. They will also make our trip to mental strength and emotional balance more enjoyable. The first Stoic principle we'll look at is the basic idea of figuring out what you can control and what you can't. This theory can help you find your way when you're feeling stuck because you're worried about the economy, politics, or even what other people think of you. Stoic thinkers, like Epictetus, stressed the simple but deep idea that what happens to us doesn't really affect our lives. How we react to what happens to us does. Think of your life as a painting. Not every color is your choice. Sometimes they just happen to be there. You really do have the paintbrush in your hand. You are the artist of this piece. According to the Stoics, our mental reactions, our decisions, judgments, and actions are entirely within our control. If you believe it, this idea could be one of the freeing ones you ever read. When you really understand this, you let go of a huge amount of stress and worry that you don't need. You free yourself from the bonds that outside events and views have around you. In a real way, you take charge of your own life. The dichotomy of power is a concept that Stoicism teaches. In simple terms, we can change some things, but not others. We have power over things like our thoughts, feelings, wants, and behaviors because we can directly affect them. Things like the weather, the stock market, and other people's actions are outside of our power. Here are some useful tips to help you figure out what you can control and what you can't. 1. When you're feeling stressed or angry, ask yourself, is this something I can control? If the answer is yes, put your attention on that. Let go of things if you don't want to. 2. Reality testing. Before putting your feelings into something, see if you can control it. Try to change it. If you can't, it's probably because of something you can't change. 3. So what technique? When you're worried about something, ask yourself, so what if this happens? Most of the time you'll learn that even if the bad thing does happen, it's not the end of the world, which will let you focus on what you can do. 4. Mindfulness can help you become more aware of your thoughts and feelings, which can help you catch yourself before you get too deeply involved with things you can't change. It's now time to put this idea into action. Draw 2 columns on a piece of paper or in a note app on your phone. Assign one to within my control and the other to outside my control. Take a moment to think about your job, your relationships, your health, and even your hopes and fears. Start putting things in each box that belong in that one. For instance, you can change how hard you work, but you can't change how the job market works. While being in a partnership, you can choose to love and understand someone, but not how they feel about you. This activity opens your eyes. Getting rid of the big rocks in your bag on a walk is like doing this. It makes your journey through life easier and more fun. So the next time you're stressed out about a bad review at work or something that might happen in the future, remember this first principle of Stoicism. Think about what you can change. Put all of your attention on that and let go of the rest. This one simple action can completely change your life, freeing you from responsibilities you don't need and letting you live your life more fully and honestly. Figuring out what you can control isn't just a Stoic concept. It's a life skill that can change everything. For real resilience and long-lasting mental strength, this is the first thing you need to do. As our intellectual journey continues, the next stop is the Stoic concept of developing apathy, or the ability to feel nothing about things. If the word apathy makes you think of lifeless robots or people with cold hearts, let's clear the air right away. Apathy, in the language of Stoics, refers to the controlled management of emotional reactions rather than the lack of feeling. It tells us not to let our emotions hold us hostage and make us lose our sense of right and wrong. Stoicism says that most of our feelings come from the things we think and believe. You can change how you feel by changing how you judge something. For instance, if someone cuts you off in traffic, you might feel angry right away because you think they've disrespected you. But if you think that they might be in a hurry to get to the hospital or didn't even see you, the mental hold on you weakens. In the Stoic sense, emotional separation means giving yourself perspective. It means creating a mental wall that lets you think clearly and act wisely, even when you're feeling angry or upset. When it comes to real life, mental distance is very useful. Think about expert players who miss a key shot or lose a match that's very important. They don't wallow in self-pity or let anger get in the way of their work. Instead, they use mental distance to learn from their mistakes and get ready for the next chance. Their resilience is clear in how quickly they recover from setbacks, which is helped by their lack of feeling. People who work as first responders, like firefighters and doctors, practice emotional separation. This helps them think and act quickly without letting their feelings stop them. This idea also works in business, where good leaders often have to make tough choices that no one wants to make. Being emotionally detached lets them weigh the pros and cons without bias and make the hard but right choice for the greater good. Now, let's carry out this intellectual understanding in real life. There will be a short guided meditation exercise, but you can change it so that you can write instead if that works better for you. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths to quiet your mind. Think about a situation that usually makes you feel bad. It could be an argumentative talk, a stressed job, or even hearing news that normally makes you angry. Picture yourself in that situation, but with a clear wall around you. This shield stands for your increased calmness and distance. As the triggering event happens, picture your feelings hitting the screen and going away. They are not allowed to touch you. You look at them, but don't talk to them. Take a moment to feel this separation, the freedom it gives you, and the insight it gives you. Open your eyes and take a few more deep breaths when you're ready. Writing in a journal. Write down a recent event that made you feel very strongly. Give specific examples of the ideas or judgments that caused these feelings. Change the way you think about these opinions or ideas so that they don't hold you emotionally tight. Write down how this new view changes how you feel and what you would do differently in the same situation in the future. You give yourself a priceless tool for resilience by learning how to be emotionally detached like a Stoic. This isn't about muting your feelings, it's about making them work together better. It's like fixing an instrument. You can still play the music, but the sounds are better, more accurate, and easier to control. In the Stoic sense, developing apathy or emotional distance is not the same thing as getting rid of your feelings. It's about making them better. It gives us the power to control our thoughts instead of letting them control us in life. A life ruled by feelings that aren't looked at is like a ship at sea with no direction. We can find our way and set a plan that is in line with our core values and greatest goals, though, when we keep our emotions in check. The next thing that holds the Stoic journey together is how important virtue and inner character are. This concept is very different from many current social rules, which put a lot of value on things like money, standing, and looks. Let's take a closer look at this concept and see how it can be used to build mental resilience as a foundation. Stoic philosophy says that the best things in life are qualities like wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. In addition to being moral ideas, they are also useful tools for living a balanced life. Stoics think that these traits are what lead to eudaimonia, which is often translated as happiness or health. They give us a moral guide and a way to deal with the complicated things in life. Think about it. If you focus on building inner virtues, the ups and downs of life will have a much smaller effect on your sense of self-worth. When the market goes down, social opinion changes, or even personal losses don't bother you as much as they would someone whose sense of value is tied to these outside factors. Being dedicated to personal virtue and inner character is like building a wall around your mind. Why? Because your ideals can stay the same, even though the world around you is always changing. The truth, kindness, and wisdom you possess cannot be taken away by anyone. They are yours and can't be taken away. Let's look at an example from real life. Let's say you're a salesperson whose only value is hitting targets or doing better than your co-workers. What happens when the market crashes or a new sales plan doesn't work? Your confidence falls apart. When you put ideals like hard work, honesty, and service first, though, a bad month doesn't ruin you. To change, learn, and keep going, you have the resilience. In the arts or in academics, you can find another case. People who base their whole sense of self on accolades, awards, or other people's approval often experience a wide range of emotions. On the other hand, Respecting traits like imagination, commitment, and the search for truth or beauty makes you resilient against the tide of public opinion or the criticism of others. Focusing on your own values also changes your drive. You don't try to live a good life because it will get you awards from outside sources. You do it because it is the benefit. Your mental resilience will only increase as a result of this self-sustaining cycle of drive, which will also make you less prone to life's ups and downs and provide you with a steady supply of energy to weather them. Let's put this idea into practice with a quick task. Write down the 4 most important Stoic traits in your notebook or on a note-taking app. They are wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Next, think about what you've done in the last month. No matter how small the act was, write it down when you showed these traits. And make a list of times you could have shown these virtues, but didn't. This 2-pronged method does 2 things. It supports good behavior while gently pointing out places where you can improve. Finally, make some goals that you can reach to work on these values this month. You can think of them as your personal KPIs, key performance indicators, but they measure your character instead of your accomplishments. The world often tells you to find happiness in material things or approval from other people. Stoicism, on the other hand, says you should look for it in the safety of your own mind. By doing this, you create a fortress of resilience that no outside force can easily break through. Stoic philosophy is based on the idea that virtue is more important than vice, and this is the key to achieving mental resilience that is unmatched. Focusing on things that are completely under your control helps you build a strong heart that stays strong even when things around you are chaotic. It's not too much of an exaggeration to say that for a Stoic, virtue is the foundation of a resilient, fulfilling life. As we continue to learn about Stoic ideas that make the mind strong, we come across an idea that can both wake us up and set us free: accepting that things change. Although this idea might seem depressing, Stoicism views it as a freeing truth that gives our lives meaning and makes us resilient in the face of life's inevitable changes. One of the most important things about Stoicism is that it accepts that things change over time. It also encourages us to live our lives as they are, not as we wish they were. It's also true that life is a dance of constant change. Nothing stays the same, good or bad. Understanding that things change over time helps us handle the ups and downs of life more calmly. The idea of impermanence isn't just found in Stoicism, of course. It's present in many religions and beliefs, from Buddhism to nihilism. Stoicism, on the other hand, takes a more practical view and tells us to use what we know to build resilience. Being aware that things will change makes you better equipped to handle problems when they appear. In the opposite direction, this knowledge also keeps us from getting too tied to short-lived pleasures, which lessens the pain that comes with loss or change. Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who was a Stoic, said one of the most moving things about this idea. He wrote in his Meditations, "Time is like a river made up of events and a violent stream, for as soon as a thing has been seen, it is carried away, and another comes in its place, and this too will be carried away." This quote sums up the Stoic view of how short life is, likening it to a river where one moment is quickly followed by the next. Marcus Aurelius tells us that both happiness and sadness are temporary, and that we should keep a healthy mood to help us deal with the ups and downs of life. Imagine the resilience of a person who can look past their current pain or challenge and recognize that it is only temporary. This person doesn't get upset easily when things go wrong because they know that good times and bad times don't last. Say you look at people who have lost their jobs and then find a bigger calling in the nothingness that comes after. Or think about relationships that end so that you can grow as a person, or find new ones that bring you more happiness and satisfaction. Accepting that things change can help us feel better, even when we're going through the worst things, like being sick or losing a loved one. It reminds us that our sadness will pass, and with time, we can heal. Let's do a task that will help you apply this Stoic wisdom to your own life. You can do this in any way that works for you, such as by writing in a notebook or meditating. Write down 3 things or events that made you very happy or joyful. Think about how temporary they are. How did you feel after they were over? How did you handle it? Name 3 difficulties or problems you've had to deal with. Think about how they've changed over time. Were you able to see how temporary they were as you read them? Last, think about your life in a year. Which of the things that are important to you right now might change? How do you feel when you think about how temporary they are? Do you feel like you can enjoy them more, or maybe let go of them a little? Accepting change is a Stoic concept that helps us see the world as it really is, changing all the time. In this way, it gives us the emotional tools to deal with the ups and downs of life, which makes us tougher and more resilient. Accepting that things change over time is like learning how to surf on the waves of change. Every wave is different, with its own rise and fall, risks and thrills, but a good surfer can ride all of them with the same calm confidence, changing to the way each one works. From a Stoic point of view, understanding that life is temporary makes us good surfers who can ride high on the waves of happiness and carefully avoid the lows of hardship while keeping their inner balance. As we continue to look at Stoic ideas that help people have strong minds, we come across a particularly powerful one: the practice of objective representation. This idea tells us to look at the world without any personal opinions, interpretations, or feelings clouding our view. It may look like a hard task at first, but as we'll see, it's actually the way to unmatched resilience and a life full of rich rewards. According to the Stoics, a lot of our problems don't come from events, but from how we think about them. People are upset not by things that happen to them, but by how they think about those things. Epictetus was right, and current psychology agrees. Our ideas affect how we feel. Changing the window through which we see reality is what objective representation is all about. It's about getting past the levels of personal opinion to get to the facts. Say you lost your job. It is a fact that you are no longer working, which has some practical and financial effects. Labeling this event as terrible, embarrassing, or unfair, on the other hand, adds a biased weight that can cause mental pain and helplessness. Being able to look at things without bias can greatly improve your ability to handle life's difficulties. Think about ending a friendship. It could be a disaster, a blow to your self-esteem, or the end of your mental life if you look at it through your own eyes. If you look at it another way, it's a change in your relationship status, which means that the connection wasn't good for either of you. This objective frame lets you look at the situation logically, learn from it, and maybe even see how it can help you grow as a person or improve your relationship in the future. Criticism is another one. It's easy to feel attacked or put down when someone like your boss or a friend attacks you. But if you look at this feedback through the lens of objective representation, you can just see it as data, information that can help you get better. Though feedback can hurt your feelings at first, it can also help you grow if you can separate your emotions from it. Here are some useful tips for objective representation. Taking a moment to breathe and separate yourself from your first feelings can help you deal with situations that make you feel strong emotions. This short break can give you the time you need to bring in perspective. Talk to people. You should question your own thoughts. What does this mean? Is it a fact or an interpretation? Are you making the situation more emotional? Assumptions are not facts until you ask questions about them. Talk about yourself in the third person. Restating the situation as if it were happening to someone else can help you see things more objectively. Ask, what happened and what does it mean? Instead of, why did this happen to me? Talk to people you trust. We can't always see past our beliefs because they are so deeply rooted. A friend you can trust who is not biased against you can help you see the truth that you might be missing. I would urge you to keep a Stoic diary as a practical practice to hone the skill. At the end of each day, write down times when you felt very angry, sad, or happy, and then look at those times critically. Take out the harsh words and see what you're left with. This one action can be very freeing and enlightening on its own. Objective representation is like a knife used by Stoics to cut away the extra tissue of biased readings, leaving behind the clean wound of reality that can heal more quickly. Becoming more resilient and learning more about the world and yourself are both boosted by making it a habit to see things as they really are. When you accept objective representation, you give yourself one of the most powerful psychological tools ever made. You build a mental wall that is tough to break through. It makes your mind more flexible so you can avoid being hit by emotional triggers and avoid getting stabbed by negative self-talk. You can stay calm in life even when things go badly if you look at things the way they really are instead of how you want them to be. Now we'll talk about the idea of willing endurance, which is a principle that ties these lessons together into a real-world action plan. It's not enough to just get through hard times. You need to see them as opportunities to grow as a person and build your character. The Stoics didn't avoid the problems in the world. Instead, they saw them as chances to use their philosophy and get better. Stoicism says that problems are not only going to happen, they are important for the soul to grow. Seneca says, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." Willful tolerance is not giving up. It is actively accepting what is happening. It means standing in the middle of a storm and saying, "Teach me." This kind of willing acceptance turns just surviving into a magical process where bad things can be turned into valuable lessons. It's important to remember that difficulties are a normal part of life for everyone. What makes us different is not whether or not we have problems, but how we deal with them. If you look at history, or even at the people in your local social group, you can see how facing and overcoming hardship can change people's lives. Think about people like Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in jail, but came out not angry, but with a plan for peace and unity. His time in jail wasn't just time served, it was a time of deep spiritual and intellectual growth. This could also be used to show J.K. Rowling, who had many failures and personal problems, such as sadness, before her Harry Potter books came out. Not only did she succeed in the end, but she also grew and got better because of the problems she faced. Change the way you deal with problems. Instead of seeing them as issues, think of them as chances. Why is this happening to me? Should become, what can this teach me? And a Stoic right should be made. Before you deal with a tough scenario, take a few deep breaths and think about the Stoic way of life. You can even keep a favorite Stoic quote close by to help you keep your mind on the present. Try changing your point of view. When you're having a hard time, take a moment to remember a problem you solved in the past. This change in time can often calm you down emotionally and help you use conscious endurance more successfully. Learn how to turn. Figuring out when to change direction is part of being able to endure willingly. Resilience can sometimes mean adapting, and having an open and long-lasting mind can help. We have a psychological resilience that goes beyond just coping strategies because of the Stoic concept of intentional endurance. It gives us the strength to see problems as opportunities for growth and change on the inside. We stop being victims of our situations and start to see life as a classroom where we are always eager to learn, grow, and change. When you look at life through the lens of determined endurance, each challenge is like a sculptor's knife cutting away at the marble that surrounds your potential. The hits may seem severy, and you may feel like you're about to break, but it's through these experiences that the most beautiful and lasting works of art, whether they're sculptures on stone or resilient human spirits, are created. Through our trip, we've learned about different Stoic concepts that can strengthen our minds and make us more resilient. Stoicism is not just a set of tools for toughening up your mind, though. Its wisdom goes beyond the self and promotes a sense of community and how everything is linked. This focus on community is what our last principle, community and universal brotherhood, will look at. Stoicism teaches us to see life through the lens of the global city or the society of all people. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and philosopher, wrote in his Meditations, "We were born to work together, like feet, hands, and eyes. To obstruct each other is unnatural, like the two rows of teeth, upper and lower. To feel angry at someone or turn your back on him are obstructions." The Stoic idea of interconnectedness is related to their focus on reason and virtue. You should work to improve your own virtue, and you should also do what you can to improve the virtue and well-being of the people around you. Stoicism holds that our own happiness is inextricably linked to the happiness of others, even though it emphasizes individual resilience through self-control, emotional management, and logical thought. So, our own resilience is increased when we apply it to a group's way of life. If you can help your community get through bad times, they will be able to help you with your own problems by giving you support, tools, and their combined wisdom. This doesn't mean you should only get help from outside sources. It means you should have a type of resilience that comes from both inside and outside sources. A resilient community can be a safety net, and its shared values can be a rock to lean on when even the most steadfast person starts to lose their composure. Let us look at how great leaders like Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. were deeply rooted in the places where they lived. Their personal resilience helped whole social groups, not just themselves. Or think about the people in your life who make it more interesting and important, like close friends, teachers, or even people you meet online. Their support, motivation, and advice make you stronger mentally. How to build community-based resilience. Help each other out. Acts of mutual aid, such as helping a neighbor with their groceries or participating in more organized activities like volunteering, increase community resilience and, by extension, your own. Listening with empathy. Emotional distance is a Stoic concept, but it doesn't mean you should ignore other people's feelings. Actively listening with empathy helps relationships stay healthy. A philosophical base that everyone shares. A Stoic circle or philosophy discussion group can be established in your community to provide a safe space for people to develop and strengthen their resilience. Take charge of things. Leadership isn't about telling people what to do. It's about building a healthy group spirit and making decisions that are good for everyone. The idea of society and friendship between all people is at the heart of Stoic philosophy and makes it a whole. Although you build and develop your resilience on a personal level, it all comes together in a group level that helps you and everyone else. We are all chained to fortune. The chain of one is made of gold and wide, and the chain of another is short and rusty. But what does it matter? The same prison surrounds all of us, said Seneca. It is in this global prison that we find our brotherhood. We can become more resilient actors, ready to do more than just our parts well, by realizing that we're all part of the big human story. But don't just let your Stoic principles guide you on your own road. Let them also light the way for others, showing us all the way to a more resilient, logical, and caring world. We've started an amazing trip through the maze of Stoic philosophy. Stoic philosophy is full of timeless wisdom from Greece and Rome that is still useful today. We have carefully studied 7 key principles that are important for resilience in the Stoic view: knowing what you can control, developing apathy or emotional detachment, putting virtue above all else, accepting change, objective representation, willful endurance, and finally, community and universal brotherhood. These principles are not just ideas to think about. They are practical steps you can take to strengthen your mental and emotional defenses against life's challenges. They tell you to think logically about mental problems, give you the strength to know what you can and can't control, and encourage you to see problems as opportunities to learn instead of problems to punish. Being a master of your own emotions is what Stoicism is all about. It also teaches you the value of community resilience in the complex weave of life. You're not a single thread, you're a part of the tapestry of human experience. By comprehending and following these Stoic principles, you not only strengthen your own thread, but you also increase the resilience of the whole fabric. That is the power of Stoicism to change things. Instead of just telling you how to be better, it pushes you to make the world a better place just by being there. As we come to the end of this in-depth look, I'd like to make a sincere call to action. Don't let this be the end, but rather the beginning. Apply the ideas you've learned here to the little things that happen in your daily life. Start your daily Stoic practice with the tasks we've talked about. Remember that Stoicism is a path, not a goal. To take it, you have to be committed every day, ready to learn and ready to change. So, go ahead and use your daily life to practice Stoic ideas. Be in charge when you can, let go when you have to, value virtue always, accept the ups and downs of life, look at things rationally, gladly face challenges, and add to the human experience as a whole. Don't think of your resilience as just a personal strength. See it as a gift to the world, a way to make society more sensible and caring. The old trees that are wise can teach us a great thing. They don't fight, protest, or complain as they stand tall in strong winds and heavy rain. They just are. They bend, sway, and sometimes break, but they do it with great grace, letting the storm's strength hit them. What does it mean to really accept? What kind of power is it to give up, recognize and see reality as it really is, without our hopes, fears, or wishes clouding our view? Accepting something doesn't mean you give up or quit. It means you recognize the way things are, which frees you from needless pain and stress. Acceptance is a deep practice that lies at the intersection of philosophy, faith, and psychology. It asks us to deal with life not the way we want it to be, but the way it really is. The world seems to spin around our tastes these days, since we can change everything from the flavor of our morning coffee to the theme on our phones. But life as it really is, without any filters, doesn't always follow our rules. We run into problems, challenges, and turns we didn't see coming. When this happens, we often fight, refuse, and dislike the difference between what is and what we want. Here comes the phrase, "It is what it is." You've probably heard it a million times in a wide range of settings, from sports to business to quiet places to meditate to busy city streets. These words have meaning. Even though they seem weak or even rude, these words have a lot of wisdom that philosophers and thinkers have been studying and writing about for thousands of years. The main idea behind this term is not indifference or loss, but rather understanding of what a situation, feeling, or task really is. There's a bridge between what people expect and what happened. We're not avoiding duty or giving up hope when we say these words. We're focusing on the moment and letting go of the weight of what-ifs and if-onlys. Many people have looked into this very idea throughout history. Stoic thinkers in ancient Greece told people to be smart about how they spent their time and energy by telling the difference between what they could control and what they couldn't. Eastern beliefs often say the same thing. Followers should flow like water, adapt, and find peace not by changing the world around them, but by changing how they see and respond to it. It's interesting to think that even though our world today looks very different from the times of Epictetus or Laozi, the core of human experience has stayed remarkably the same. We have always been looking for peace, understanding, and a way to get through life's rough waters. As a lighthouse, the philosophy of welcome shines through all times, countries, and ideas. Still, you need to do more than just nod your head to understand the depth and spread of this philosophy. It makes you want to go on a trip through time, thought, and yourself. To learn how to accept things as they are is to weave the lessons of great thinkers, from the Stoics to current scientists, into the very fabric of our lives. Let's learn more about acceptance through the eyes of famous people who have lived in the past as we start this trip together. We will talk about what acceptance is really about, how it can change people, and the peace it can bring to those who understand and practice it. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. The Greek philosopher Epictetus was born into the hard conditions of slavery. His life as a slave in Rome would not be what most people would call lucky. Still, this small space gave rise to a philosophy so deep that its effects are still felt today in the way we think about acceptance and control. Epictetus finally got his freedom, but he walked funny because his boss had broken his leg. He later opened a school in Neapolis and taught a philosophy that was based on how control works. What he taught was based on the deep difference between things we can control and things we can't. This line of separation is not just an observation, it's also a tool or guide for sailing the rough seas of life. Picture yourself standing on the edge of a huge, rough ocean. Each wave hits the shore with its own strength, beat, and direction. Some might say it's a fool's errand for you to stand there with a bucket and try to change the tide. This is how a lot of us live our lives, trying to control the huge, uncontrolled forces around us, which always ends in anger, sadness, and sometimes hopelessness. Focus on the bucket, how you hold it, when you choose to fill it, and where you pour the water that's in your grasp. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. This quote from Epictetus perfectly sums up his philosophy. It's not the outside events that make us feel uneasy, but how we think and feel about them. Something as ordinary as a passing word from a stranger, the death of a loved one, or even the loss of a job is not a bad thing in and of itself. Depending on how we see them, they can bring us happiness, sadness, anger, or nothing at all. To be truly changing, it is important to ask ourselves, if our opinions bother us more than the events themselves, then we have the power to choose how to react. This isn't about fooling yourself or putting on a happy face for everyone. It's about realizing that events are neutral by nature, and then realizing that we can choose how to react to them. Epictetus thought that the main thing we can manage is our own will and choices. We can't change the weather, but we can bring a cover with us if we want to. We can't change what someone else does, but we can change how we react to it. We can't always control what will happen, but we can always decide how hard we'll work. The interesting thing about this philosophy is that it's not just silent acceptance, it's also an active participation in life. It's about being responsible for our sphere, which is our own thoughts, feelings, and choices. While we can't let fate decide how we move, We can choose the steps we take, the beat we adopt, and the ease with which we move. Having this kind of attitude can change your life. Think about the things that bother and stress us out every day: traffic jams, mean words, and plans that get pushed back. All of these things can turn into a flood of worry if we let them. Do we listen to Epictetus and ask ourselves, is this within my control? If it isn't, can we then put our attention on what is, our reaction, our attitude, our next move? The wisdom of a former slave from ancient Rome seems more relevant than ever in today's world, where we are bombarded with information and tasks seem complex and frequently overwhelming. We don't limit ourselves when we write down the limits of what we can control. We give ourselves power. We get insight, a sense of purpose, and most importantly, peace. Epictetus's lessons are a call to interact with the world not as powerless victims of events, but as strong people who are always ready, always resilient, and able to find peace in the middle of the storm. Because knowing what we can and cannot change helps us learn how to truly accept things as they are, a graceful dance in the face of life's constant changes. Life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Don't resist them. That only creates sorrow. Let reality be reality. Lao. Ancient societies had spiritual teachers who, by connecting with nature, figured out the rhythms and patterns of life. This is where many pearls of wisdom come from. Notable people in this group included Laozi, a sage whose name means the old master. His ideas are at the heart of Taoism, a philosophy and spiritual path that stresses living in harmony with the Tao, which is often translated as the way. Allow yourself to picture yourself standing by a calm river. Its waves flow slowly, easily going around rocks and making bends. They never rush or linger, but they always get where they're going. In a way, this picture captures the spirit of Taoist thought. According to Taoism, life has its own natural flow, like that river. Our trip is more peaceful when we go with the flow instead of fighting it. Now we'll talk about the idea of Wu Wei, which may sound strange to some. When translated as not doing or not acting, it doesn't support being idle or not doing anything. Instead, it is the art of doing things without forcing them or trying to stop them. It is the art of letting things happen naturally without forcing them or fighting them. A tree doesn't try to grow, it just does. Birds just fly. They don't try hard to do it. Nature doesn't work. It just is. This is what Wu Wei means to us. When we constantly push, force, and strive, we may win in the short term, but they usually cost us our peace of mind and our ability to keep going in the long term. Wu Wei urges us to believe in the natural order of things and to act only when it's necessary, without using force or fight. Lao's words, "Life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes," say it all so well. Don't fight them. That will only make you sad. Let reality be reality. How often do we fight these natural changes in a world where they are the only thing that stays the same? Trying to stop changes in our lives, like an unexpected event, a quick change in plans, or even the relentless march of time, is like trying to stop a river from flowing with your bare hands. It's not only pointless, but it's also tiring. This doesn't mean that you're apathetic or giving up. On the contrary, flowing with the Tao or following Wu Wei means being very aware of what's going on around you and knowing when to speak up and when to keep quiet. There are times when you lead and times when you follow, but you are always in sync with the music of life. In our modern world, where things move quickly and problems are everywhere, Wu Wei stands out as a leader. Think of problems not as things that need to be pushed aside, but as puzzles that need to be solved. Think about the idea of solving problems with thoughtful communication instead of violent confrontation. Imagine a life where we don't react out of a sense of panicked haste, but out of a sense of calm clarity. When we follow Lao's lessons, we are asked to rethink how we relate to life itself. Life is no longer a battlefield full of problems to solve. Instead, it becomes a scenery to explore, full of puzzles to solve and wonders to see. When we practice the art of Wu Wei and give in to the flow of the Tao, we don't lose control. We find it in a deeper, more meaningful way. We start to understand that real power isn't about controlling the outside world, but about getting along with it and understanding it. Lao's wisdom has been passed down through the centuries and is not just intellectual thoughts, it is also useful advice. We might think about times in our lives when we resisted and it hurt, or when we tried to force something and it didn't work. By thinking about Wu Wei's lessons, we might change how we handle similar situations in the future. There are many turns and bends in the river of life. But if we use the guide of Tao wisdom, we can find our way through it with grace, understanding, and an inner peace that isn't affected by the chaos around us. Accept whatever comes to you as part of your destiny. What could better fit your needs? Marcus Aurelius said this. In the complicated weave of history, Marcus Aurelius is a great example of how power and wisdom can work together. A Roman emperor who led troops and ruled over an area that reached the known edges of the world. Still, it was in the quiet parts of his tent, often while he was on war missions, that he wrote the Meditations, which are considered to be the most important work on Stoic philosophy. Even though this man had a lot of power and luxury, he didn't go to the big halls to get advice. Instead, he went to the quiet comfort of philosophy. Marcus Aurelius's thoughts are based on the idea that the world has a natural order, a reasoning, and a pace that is built in. For him, everything that happens in nature is part of a big plan, a cosmic dance that is happening. The seasons change, the stars rise and set, and rivers flow into the sea. When we fight or fear this normal development, we get out of sync and create discord within ourselves. But when we match our will with this big plan and understand and accept its rhythms, we find peace inside and outside of ourselves. Marcus Aurelius said, "Accept whatever comes your way as part of your destiny. What could be better for your needs?" This is a powerful call to accept. What does this acceptance mean, though? It's not about apathy or giving up on wanting to change things. To be more specific, it's about noticing how things happen and figuring out where we fit in them. Flowing with the world, identifying its currents and eddies, is what lets us handle life with a calm resilience. Think about the problems Marcus Aurelius had to deal with: wars, plagues, betrayals, and political scheming. When things were going so badly for him, it would have been easy for him to give up or become angry. However, his somber views kept him grounded in the idea that problems were normal and an important part of being human. He didn't just get through them, he used them to grow, think, and understand things better. Marcus thinks that everything that happens in our lives, no matter how happy, sad, or boring it is a chance to learn, grow, and get a better sense of how the world works. When things go wrong, we shouldn't ask, "Why me?" "What can I learn from this?" is what the Stoic way of thinking asks us. How can this make me a better person, make me more determined, or increase my wisdom? Marcus Aurelius pushed for a life with purpose, honesty, and acceptance by recognizing that life is temporary and that we are but brief moments in the big picture of the universe. Every moment becomes valuable, every problem a chance to learn, and every happiness a present. In this light, acceptance isn't a reluctant giving up, it's a strong support of life. The most important thing about Marcus Aurelius's lessons is that they are useful. He isn't debating an abstract philosophy in holy halls. His Stoicism is a way of life that he has tried and improved in the battlegrounds of life. Every piece in the Meditations shows how a man tried to live his philosophy, to do what he believed and accept the natural order, even when things around him were chaotic. Marcus Aurelius is a figure that helps us figure out what to do in a world that is full of unknowns. His calm, quiet wisdom gives us a solid view. It makes us remember that even though we can't change what happens in the world, we can always change how we respond to it. It encourages us to be true to ourselves, to try to live in balance with nature, and to accept ourselves as we are with its innate wisdom. As we think on Marcus Aurelius's insights, we're asked to see our lives not as separate events, but as linked pieces of a global puzzle. Every event, every feeling, every struggle and success is a thread in the complex weave of our life. When we understand how everything is connected and accept the natural rhythms of life, we find a peace that goes beyond our circumstances and is based on deep acceptance. In life, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Buddha. In the lush landscapes of ancient India, beneath the shade of the Bodhi tree, a profound transformation unfolded. Siddhartha Gautama, a prince who had left his royal legacy in search of greater truths, achieved enlightenment and became the Buddha. His journey from the opulence of a palace to the austerity of ascetic life weaves a rich tapestry that has profoundly influenced philosophical and spiritual thought across millennia. The Buddha, the Enlightened One, shared the wisdom that grew from his enlightenment through different lessons, essential among which are the Four Noble Truths. These truths are both profound and pragmatic, addressing the very root of human suffering and charting a path towards liberation. The first noble truth, dukkha, often translated as suffering, posits that life is inherently unsatisfactory, marked by suffering, conflict, and impermanence. It is not a pessimistic view, but rather a realistic observation that in life, pain, loss, and dissatisfaction are inevitable. The second truth, samudaya, attributes this suffering to desire or craving, illustrating that our attachments and aversions to people, things, and concepts generate discontent. Acceptance emerges as a pivotal theme. Here, Buddha emphasizes the acceptance of suffering as an integral part of human existence. But how does one find peace amidst this inherent suffering? This is where the philosophy weaves into a practice of mindful detachment. Buddha articulated, "You only lose what you cling to." Herein lies a gentle beckoning towards detachment, not as a cold, emotionless state, but as a mindful recognition and acceptance of the transient nature of all things. When we clutch tightly to people, outcomes, or materials, we are perpetually on a tumultuous sea, swayed by the waves of life's vicissitudes. Detachment is like learning to navigate the sea, to sail with skill and wisdom, allowing ourselves to experience fully yet without being capsized by the inevitable storms. The practice of detachment is deeply intertwined with acceptance. By accepting the impermanent, unsatisfactory nature of life, we free ourselves from the shackles of undue suffering that arises from clinging and craving. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions or denying the pain. It means fully experiencing, understanding, and letting them flow without hindrance, without constructing a permanent dwelling in them. When Buddha speaks of detachment, it's with the recognition that all things are transient, and clinging to them is like trying to grasp at the wind. Possessions, achievements, even loved ones will eventually pass away or transform. The more we cling, the more we suffer. However, in mindful detachment, we can fully engage with life, experiencing joy, love, and yes, even pain, with a heart that's free and open. This notion brings us to the third and fourth noble truths, Nirodha and Magga, respectively. Neroda is the sensation of suffering achievable through relinquishing attachment and desire, while Marga, the path to the cessation of suffering, is outlined in the Eightfold Path, which provides practical guidelines on ethical and mental development to reach enlightenment. Embarking on this path requires a subtle blend of active engagement and gentle acceptance. It invites us to be dynamically present in each moment, to engage with life fully, to drink deeply of each experience, but to do so with open hands, with a spirit that understands the ephemeral nature of all things. Acceptance, then, is not a passive resignation, but an active acknowledgement of what is, without an anxious clinging to what was, or a fervent craving for what might be. His teachings invite us to ponder the true sources of happiness, to examine the roots of our desires, and to contemplate the transient, fleeting nature of all things. Through this, we find a path that meanders through the lush landscapes of deep, authentic living toward a serene acceptance of life in all its splendid, painful, and ephemeral beauty. My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. Friedrich Nietzsche, in the rich history of philosophical thought, few figures evoke as much intrigue and controversy as Friedrich Nietzsche, a German philosopher whose work skirted the boundaries of convention. Nietzsche challenged established norms, questioned traditional values, and grappled with the profoundest depths of human existence. With his penetrating insights, Nietzsche traversed areas of morality, religion, and the very essence of life. Among his myriad concepts, one shines brightly as an anthem for embracing the entirety of existence, amor fati, which translates to a profound love of fate. This idea is not merely about accepting one's fate, but deeply and passionately loving it. To Nietzsche, life wasn't a sanitized, curated experience wherein one seeks only pleasure and avoids pain. Rather, he viewed life as a holistic journey where every high and low, every joy and sorrow forms an integral part of our narrative. I want to learn more and more to see as beautiful what is necessary in things. Then I shall be one of those who make things beautiful, he once remarked. This perspective captures the essence of his love of fate philosophy. It's about seeing beauty in the inevitable, in the necessary, and in the challenges that life throws our way. Life, with its tapestry of experiences, is never a linear journey. There are ebbs and flows, peaks of elation, and valleys of despair. Many philosophies advocate for contentment, for finding peace amidst the storm. Nietzsche's perspective, on the other hand, encourages not just peace, but a passionate embrace. It's a call to not only endure life's challenges, but to revel in them, to view them as essential threads in the intricate weave of our existence. Imagine life as a grand, complex piece of music. There are crescendos and diminuendos, swift allegros and melancholic adagios. If we were to remove the challenging notes, the sharp and the flat, the music would lose its depth, its resonance. Nietzsche invites us to appreciate every note, every beat, understanding that it's the entirety of the composition that gives it beauty and meaning. But how does one come to love challenges, hardships, or moments of despair? Nietzsche's philosophy is not one of masochism. He doesn't glorify suffering for its own sake. Instead, he sees challenges as opportunities for growth, as crucibles that forge and refine our character. By embracing all of life, including its adversities, we engage in a deeper, more authentic experience of existence. In the vast expanse of human experiences, it's often the challenges that shape us the most. The losses teach us about value, pain informs our empathy, and hardships carve out a reservoir of resilience. When Nietzsche speaks of a love of fate, He beckons us to recognize and honor this transformative power of challenges. By doing so, we shift our perspective from mere endurance to vibrant, passionate engagement with every facet of life. As we traverse the modern landscape with its unique challenges and uncertainties, Nietzsche's insights become particularly resonant. In a world that often seeks instant gratification, his philosophy provides a lens through which we can view challenges not as burdens, but as opportunities, not as curses, but as gifts. Through the embrace of life's entirety, through a profound love of fate, we find a path to deeper understanding, richer experiences, and ultimately a more authentic, vibrant existence. The desire for security and the feeling of insecurity are the same thing. To hold your breath is to lose your breath. Alan Watts. Alan Watts, a British philosopher often adorned with a mischievous grin, had an uncanny knack for bridging worlds, melding Eastern philosophical depths with Western intellectual traditions, making the profound accessible and the mystic tangible. Watts, with his eloquent articulation and dynamic delivery, introduced the West to concepts that seemed, at first glance, alien to its empirical and linear mindset. Yet it was not just a matter of translation. Watts had the ability to weave together disparate philosophical threads into a coherent tapestry that resonated deeply with contemporary seekers. Central to Watts' teachings is a concept that might seem paradoxical: the wisdom of insecurity. At a glance, the very pairing of wisdom with insecurity might appear counterintuitive in a world that often values stability, certainty, and the familiar. How could there be wisdom in insecurity? For what the relentless pursuit of security, the endless desire to pin down the fleeting and ephemeral, was a mirage. It was not only unattainable, but also a source of profound suffering. He observed that life, by its very nature, is a flux, a constant flow of changing moments. By clinging to certain moments or states and resisting change, we find ourselves perpetually out of sync with reality. Imagine trying to hold on to a river's waters, cupping them tightly in your hands. The more we grasp, the more the water slips through our fingers. Life, Watts asserted, is akin to this river, ever-flowing, ever-changing. Seeking security in this dynamic dance is like trying to freeze the river in place, an endeavor both futile and frustrating. In our pursuit of permanence and certainty, we construct elaborate edifices of belief, identity, and expectation. Yet beneath these structures lies an undercurrent of anxiety. Deep down, there's a recognition that everything is impermanent. Watts suggested that our suffering stems from this tension between the reality of life's impermanence and our desire for enduring security. However, Watts offered not just a diagnosis, but also a remedy. Instead of resisting the inherent insecurity of life, he proposed leaning into it, embracing the uncertain, the unknown, the fleeting moments as they come and go. By doing so, we align ourselves with the true rhythm of existence. As Watts eloquently stated, the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. Yet the wisdom of insecurity is not a call to nihilism or reckless abandon. It's not about disregarding the future or acting impulsively. Rather, it's an invitation to be fully present in each moment, to engage with life authentically and without the heavy baggage of rigid expectations. It's about finding freedom in the recognition that security and permanence are but illusions, and that there's a profound beauty in the ever-shifting dance of life. In an age defined by its uncertainties, where change is the only constant, Alan Watts's teachings resonate with poignant relevance. The anxiety of the modern world often stems from our attempts to forecast, control, and secure our futures. Yet, as Watts suggests, True peace comes from letting go of these illusions, from understanding that life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be experienced. Watts once mused, "There will always be suffering, but we must not suffer over the suffering." In this simple yet profound insight lies the essence of the wisdom of insecurity. It's a gentle reminder that in accepting the inherent uncertainties of life, in dancing with its ever-changing rhythms, we find not chaos, but harmony, not suffering, but joy. As we reflect on these insights, we are reminded that wisdom often lies where we least expect it, in the midst of insecurity, in the embrace of the unknown. There lies a profound wisdom, a path to deeper understanding, richer experiences, and a life lived in tune with the authentic melodies of existence. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Viktor Frankl. Amidst the darkest chapters of human history, voices emerge not just as mere echoes of despair, but as beacons of hope and profound wisdom. One such voice belongs to Viktor Frankl, an Austrian psychiatrist who endured the harrowing experience of the Holocaust. From the bleak confines of Auschwitz and other concentration camps, Frankl extracted insights that would illuminate the depths of human existence and shape the landscape of existential therapy. Frankl's narrative is not one of passive resignation. Instead, it's an anthem of resilience, purpose, and the indefatigable human spirit. The crucible of his experiences birthed his seminal work, Man's Search for Meaning, a poignant exploration of the human quest for significance amidst adversity. Central to Frankl's philosophy is the idea that even in the gravest of circumstances, individuals can find meaning in life. According to Frankl, never ceases to have purpose, he wrote. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. It is this freedom, the ability to imbue even suffering with significance, that stands as a testament to human strength and resilience. The concentration camps stripped individuals of every conceivable freedom and dignity. In this dehumanizing environment, Frankl observed that those who found a why to their existence, those who held on to some sense of purpose, were more resilient to the degradation and despair. It wasn't about physical vitality, but about spiritual strength, an inner conviction that life, despite its brutality, held meaning. Frankl's insights bridged the vast expanse between extreme suffering and the everyday challenges of modern life. Each individual, he posited, has a unique purpose, a singular quest for significance. Suffering in its myriad forms is an inevitable aspect of the human condition. Yet, Frankl argued that it's not the presence of suffering, but the absence of meaning that leads to despair. When faced with hardships, individuals can either view them as pointless tragedies or as opportunities for deeper understanding and growth. This transformative perspective shifts the focus from the avoidance of pain to the pursuit of meaning. It's not about escaping suffering, but about navigating it with a sense of purpose. Even in the face of death, a reality he confronted daily in the camps, Frankl believed that life held potential meaning. Each moment, each interaction, even each loss could be infused with significance. Life can be meaningful or made meaningful, not only by doing a deed, by creating a work, and beyond that, by our experiencing something or by our encountering someone. To encounter him in his uniqueness means by loving him. But even if need be, whenever we are confronted with an unchangeable fate, whenever we have to face, say, an incurable disease, an inoperable cancer, even then, there is the highest meaning, potential to realize, to fulfill. Because then, precisely then, we are called upon to bear witness to the unique human potential which is to transmute, to turn a predicament into an achievement, a human accomplishment, or to turn tragedy into a triumph. Frankl's therapeutic approach, known as logotherapy, derives from the Greek word logos, which can be translated as meaning. Unlike psychotherapy models that prioritize pleasure or power, logotherapy emphasizes the human desire for purpose. In this framework, existential vacuums, feelings of emptiness and meaninglessness, are seen as central contributors to modern malaise. It's not the challenges themselves, but the perception of them being pointless that exacerbates suffering. In our contemporary world, replete with its unique challenges and existential anxieties, Frankl's philosophy finds resonant echoes. Whether it's the loss of a loved one, the dissolution of a relationship, or the struggles with personal identity and purpose, the quest for meaning remains paramount. Viktor Frankl, from the depths of despair, offers a lens to view suffering not as an aberration, but as an integral part of the human journey. His life and work serve as a powerful reminder that even in the darkest nights of the soul, stars of meaning and purpose can shine brightly. In the embrace of Frankl's philosophy, we find solace and strength. We are reminded that our lives, with all their challenges, joys and sorrows, are not random or futile. Each experience, each tear, each laugh carries with it the potential for deeper understanding, growth, and significance. In the end, Frankl's message is both timeless and timely. Life, in all its complexity, is meaningful. It's upon us, amidst the cacophony of existence, to tune in, listen deeply, and find our unique symphony of significance. As Frankl so poignantly stated, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. In this journey through the landscapes of thought, we've woven together the teachings of diverse minds, each shedding a unique light on the age-old philosophy of acceptance. Epicurus, with the stern discipline of Stoicism, reminds us of the serenity found in discerning between what is within our control and what isn't. Laozi, with the ethereal wisdom of Taoism, beckons us to flow with life's river, emphasizing the beauty of simply letting things be. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor-philosopher, illustrates the harmony in aligning ourselves with the natural order, appreciating life's every pulse. Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, elucidates the liberation in understanding and accepting the inherent nature of suffering. Alan Watts, bridging East and West, unravels the wisdom lying in the heart of insecurity, nudging us to dance to life's ever-changing rhythms. And Viktor Frankl, from the crucible of unimaginable suffering, provides a beacon of hope, asserting the indomitable spirit's ability to find meaning even in despair. This collection of insights, woven from different threads of time, culture and experience, highlights a singular truth. Acceptance is not passive resignation. It's an active, conscious choice to embrace life as it is, to find meaning in the mundane and the monumental, and to navigate challenges not with resistance, but with understanding. Integrating the art of acceptance into our daily lives is not merely philosophical musing, it's an imperative for holistic well-being. In every curveball life throws, in every unexpected twist, lies an opportunity, a chance to grow, to learn, and to come closer to our authentic selves. Acceptance doesn't diminish life's challenges. It empowers us to face them with grace, courage, and wisdom. As you, dear viewers, step away from this exploration, a challenge lies ahead. Reflect on your life's tapestry, its hues of joys, shadows of challenges, and patterns of experiences. Where can you infuse more acceptance? Which threads can you view not as snags, but as integral parts of your unique story? Remember, each philosopher, each thinker was once someone like you, seeking, pondering, growing. You too have the power to transform challenges into stepping stones, to find wisdom in the whirlwind of life. May you embark on this introspection with an open heart. May you discover pockets of acceptance where once there was resistance, and in doing so, may you find not just serenity, but also a deeper, more profound connection with the intricate, beautiful dance that is life. Embrace it, cherish it, and remember, every moment holds within it the seeds of wisdom waiting to bloom. Imagine for a moment that you could possess a wealth so vast it would make even the richest people in the world feel impoverished by comparison. But this wealth isn't counted in banknotes or precious metals. It's a treasure that's been sought after for thousands of years, and yet it's within the grasp of each and every one of us. Welcome to a wealth paradigm shift, courtesy of Stoic philosophy. The topic we're diving into today is one that we all consciously or unconsciously wrestle with every single day: wealth. No, we're not just talking about money. We're talking about the conception of wealth that goes beyond material possessions, an idea so deeply entrenched in our psyche that it governs our decisions, actions, and even our state of happiness. The question is, can ancient Stoic wisdom, a philosophy from over 2 millennia ago, provide insights into how we, modern people living in a radically different world, can acquire wealth? But before we start our exploration, let me take a step back and explain why this topic is so relevant today. We live in an age where the headlines are filled with stories of self-made millionaires and billionaires, skyrocketing stock markets, cryptocurrencies, and seemingly endless opportunities for financial gain. Yet, despite these seemingly abundant resources and pathways to wealth, the majority of people are struggling financially. The global divide between the rich and poor is growing, financial anxiety is rampant, and there is a general sense of unease and dissatisfaction, even among those who are well off. There's clearly a missing piece to this wealth puzzle, and the repercussions are not just financial, but emotional and psychological. The purpose of this video is to unearth that missing piece by exploring the Stoic approach to acquiring wealth. Stoicism is a school of philosophy that originated in ancient Greece and was popularized by philosophers such as Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius. You may be familiar with some of its core tenets: embracing rationality, understanding what we can and cannot control, practicing virtues like courage, wisdom, justice, and temperance. Stoicism teaches us how to live a life of virtue and emotional resilience. But can it also guide us in the modern complexities of wealth creation and management? Is it possible to reconcile the Stoic pursuit of inner peace and virtue with the contemporary ambition for financial security and prosperity? Can we align the Stoic virtues with modern financial strategies and investment philosophies? These are the pressing questions we'll tackle as we aim to unravel a complete Stoic guide to becoming wealthy. When we discuss wealth from a Stoic perspective, we're not only speaking about the accumulation of assets. We're talking about wealth in terms of time, relationships, contentment, and, yes, inner peace and happiness. A kind of wealth that's not fleeting but sustainable, not narrow but expansive, not exclusive but available to each and every one of us, regardless of where we are starting from. If you've ever felt that there's got to be a deeper, more fulfilling approach to wealth, or if you've ever been curious about how Stoic philosophy can be applied to other areas of your life, then stick around. We're about to embark on an intellectual journey that will challenge you to redefine what true wealth means. But be warned, the road ahead is not for the faint of heart. You'll be confronted with thought-provoking ideas that might challenge your existing beliefs about money, success, and happiness. If you're ready to challenge the status quo and venture into a realm where philosophy meets finance, then you're in the right place. So grab a notebook, put on your thinking cap, and get ready to dig deep. We're about to explore the intricacies of Stoicism and its teachings on becoming truly wealthy. Prepare yourself for a transformative experience that might just change the way you perceive wealth, happiness, and success forever. In our modern lexicon, the term wealth often conjures up images of fancy cars, sprawling mansions, designer clothing, and endless vacations in exotic locations. It's intrinsically tied to material accumulation, the stuff you can pile up during your lifetime. But let's take a moment and ask ourselves, what does wealth really mean? How would you define it? Chances are each one of us may have a slightly different answer to this question, and therein lies the crux of our dilemma. We're operating on different planes when it comes to understanding what wealth truly is. Now let's extend this question further and ask, how did the Stoics define wealth? To understand Stoic philosophy's viewpoint, we need to look at wealth through a broader lens, one that expands beyond mere material possession. According to Stoicism, there are two types of wealth, material and immaterial. Material wealth includes all the tangible resources you can accumulate, money, property, and goods. This is the kind most people aim for, and there's nothing inherently wrong with it. According to Stoic thinking, it serves practical purposes. It can ease many of life's challenges, and it's natural for humans to seek comfort and security. However, the Stoics were far more interested in what they considered to be true wealth, which they defined as wealth of the soul. This immaterial wealth is composed of virtues, wisdom, peace of mind, and emotional resilience. Seneca, a Roman philosopher and statesman, emphasized that no one can rob us of this internal wealth. It's immune to market crashes, political upheavals, and natural disasters. In his essays and letters, Seneca vividly describes how this wealth of the soul is what provides us true freedom and happiness. Material wealth can be stolen, it can decay or be devalued, but virtues like wisdom, courage, and justice are ours to keep without any depreciation. Why do the Stoics insist that this intangible form of wealth is more important than material riches? Stoicism teaches that the quality of our lives is determined not by our external circumstances, but by our internal state. Your perception, judgments, and reactions to the world around you create the life you experience. This concept is echoed in the words of Marcus Aurelius, another prominent Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, who stated that the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. It implies that true wealth starts from within, from the soul. This immaterial wealth equips us to deal more effectively with the chaos of the external world and grants us a certain kind of invincibility where we are not easily swayed by life's ups and downs. This viewpoint becomes even more relevant when we consider the unpredictability of material wealth. Take a moment to think about the numerous millionaires and billionaires who faced immense scandals, bankruptcies, or financial losses overnight. On the flip side, consider those who, despite limited material means, live an enriched life filled with love, joy, and purpose. That's the Stoic wealth of the soul in action. As Epictetus, a philosopher who was born a slave and later gained his freedom, asserted, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." In other words, while we may have limited control over material wealth, we have absolute control over our inner wealth. You might wonder how this perspective of wealth integrates with our modern-day financial goals and pursuits. Is it impractical to aim for a wealth of the soul when we have bills to pay, mouths to feed, and dreams to finance? The answer lies in the balance and wisdom that Stoicism brings to the table. Stoic philosophy doesn't discourage material wealth, Rather, it emphasizes the importance of not becoming enslaved to it or letting it define your self-worth. Striving for material wealth becomes a problem when it consumes you, destabilizes your emotions, or drives you to compromise your virtues. In essence, Stoicism advises us to strive for material wealth as a means to an end, not as an end in itself. Therefore, the Stoic definition of wealth isn't an either-or proposition. It doesn't mean choosing between being wealthy in material goods or wealthy in virtue. Instead, it offers a more holistic approach, urging us to internalize virtues and wisdom as a means to navigate the complexities of acquiring material wealth in a virtuous manner. Understanding this perspective on wealth offers a deeper, more nuanced view. It challenges us to not only expand our assets, but also enrich our souls, thus achieving a balanced, resilient, and fulfilling life. And as we move further into this guide, we'll see how this Stoic blueprint can be practically applied to amass both material and immaterial wealth, creating a life that's not just rich, but also profoundly meaningful. We've laid down the foundation by discussing what wealth means from a Stoic perspective. Now let's focus on something fundamental in Stoic philosophy: the four Stoic virtues of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. How do these virtues play a role in accumulating not just wealth of the soul, but also material wealth? The first virtue we'll examine is wisdom. Stoic wisdom entails knowing what is within our control and what is not, understanding the true nature of things, and making informed decisions based on this understanding. But how does wisdom contribute to wealth? In the realm of financial planning and investment, wisdom is akin to financial literacy. A wise individual knows how to budget, invest, and manage resources effectively. Just like a wise sailor knows when to set sail or stay in the harbor, a wise investor knows when to invest, hold, or pull out of an opportunity. This insight doesn't come merely from raw data or market trends. It stems from a holistic understanding of economics, human behavior, and even self-awareness about one's own risk tolerance and financial goals. Wisdom enables you to sift through the noise in the financial markets, politics, or popular opinion, allowing you to make decisions that are aligned with long-term wealth creation and preservation. Next comes courage. Courage in Stoicism isn't just about physical bravery, but also involves mental fortitude, the courage to face adversity, confront our fears, and live in accordance with our values. So how can courage help you in your financial journey? For starters, the financial world is rife with uncertainties and risks. Whether you're starting a new business venture or investing in the stock market, courage is what enables you to take calculated risks. It's what pushes you to invest in a downturn when everyone else is selling, or to hold on to an investment when market sentiments are against you. Courage helps you break free from the herd mentality that often leads to poor financial decisions. But it's not recklessness. Remember, Stoic courage is always informed by wisdom. It's about making bold moves when your understanding, your wisdom, tells you it's the right thing to do, even if it's the hard thing to do. Now let's talk about justice, the third Stoic virtue. Stoic justice involves fairness, equality, and working for the common good. How does justice play into wealth creation? In the world of business and finance, ethical considerations often take a back seat in the mad rush for profits. However, acting justly in your financial dealings not only adds to your social capital, but also preserves and multiplies your material wealth in the long term. Ethical businesses attract more loyal customers, dedicated employees, and favorable partnerships. Similarly, ethical investment in socially responsible funds, for instance, tends to be more sustainable in the long run. Justice in your financial affairs also shields you from legal issues that could lead to financial ruin. Thus, adhering to a code of ethics, treating employees fairly, offering quality products or services, being honest in financial reporting. All these just actions contribute to a sustainable and profitable business model. Last but not least, we have temperance, which involves self-discipline, moderation, and control over one's impulses. In a consumer culture that constantly encourages instant gratification, how does temperance help? Firstly, temperance is a strong antidote to impulse buying, reckless investment, and debt accumulation. It helps you live within your means and save for your future. In investing, temperance could manifest as a disciplined approach to asset allocation, avoiding the temptation to bet the farm on a hot tip. In business, it could mean the self-control to not overextend your resources or take on more than you can handle. In everyday life, temperance guides you to differentiate between your wants and needs, allowing for a more efficient allocation of your resources. Over time, these tempered decisions compound, offering you not just material wealth, but also the peace of mind that comes from financial security. These Stoic virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, are not just moral guidelines for a virtuous life. They are pragmatic strategies for effective wealth creation and preservation. By integrating these virtues into our financial lives, we lay down a rock-solid foundation for both material and immaterial wealth. We create a sustainable model of wealth generation that is resilient to the inevitable ebbs and flows of life and the market. Remember, the Stoics were not against material wealth. They were against the irrational and unethical pursuit of it. By aligning our financial pursuits with these Stoic virtues, we set ourselves on a path to true wealth, one that enriches not just our bank accounts, but also our souls. Now that we've discussed the Stoic virtues and how they can guide us towards creating both material and immaterial wealth, let's address a topic that often breeds confusion and debate. Is money evil? The answer, according to Stoic philosophy, is an emphatic no. Money itself is neutral, but before you jump to conclusions, it's crucial to unpack this idea further. In Stoic terms, money is what they call an indifferent thing. It's neither good nor bad. What matters is our relationship with it, how we acquire it, how we use it, and how we let it affect us. In this section, we'll explore the Stoic argument that while money isn't evil, the love of money and what one does with it can be either virtuous or vicious. You've likely heard the saying, "The love of money is the root of all evil." This phrase echoes what Stoics warned us about, the slippery slope that starts with a disproportionate attachment to wealth. When the pursuit of money becomes an end in itself, rather than a means to an end, that's when we tread into dangerous territory. Stoicism teaches us to maintain an emotional detachment from external goods, money included. Emotional detachment doesn't mean indifference or lack of care. Rather, it's a balanced state where your well-being and sense of self-worth are not tied to your financial status. If money becomes the yardstick by which we measure success, happiness, or self-worth, then we're setting ourselves up for a life driven by anxiety, greed, and endless craving. This emotional dependency on wealth can lead us down a perilous path where our ethical and moral standards may start to waver, causing us to make choices that we might later regret profoundly. Seneca warned us that to be obsessed by the love of money is to be preoccupied with avarice, a frightful evil. So, if money isn't inherently evil, it stands to reason that it can be used in both virtuous and vicious ways. How we use our wealth is a testament to our character and virtues, or lack thereof. For example, using money to provide for your family, invest in your education, help those in need, or fund ventures that add value to society are virtuous uses of wealth. These actions align with the Stoic virtues of wisdom, knowing the right way to use your resources; justice, using your wealth to promote equality and the common good; and temperance, moderating your own desires to allocate resources responsibly. On the other hand, using money to deceive, exploit, or harm others for personal gain aligns with none of the Stoic virtues and is clearly vicious. Similarly, hoarding wealth for the sake of wealth, living extravagantly while ignoring the needs of others, or indulging in activities that harm your soul, such as excessive hedonism, are also vicious uses of money. In today's world, the Stoic philosophy urges us to be ethical investors and entrepreneurs. As we discussed earlier, the Stoic virtues of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance provide a moral compass guiding us in how we should acquire and use wealth. An ethical investor would follow the virtue of wisdom by thoroughly researching before investing, and will have the courage to invest in ventures that align with their values, even if they are unpopular. They would enact justice by choosing investments that contribute positively to society, and exercise temperance by not succumbing to the highs and lows of the financial market. Similarly, an entrepreneur guided by Stoic philosophy would build a business rooted in ethical practices, aiming not just for profitability, but also for societal good. This mindset isn't just noble, it's also smart business. Organizations that are rooted in ethical practices and societal contribution are increasingly finding favor with consumers and are more resilient in times of economic uncertainty. Money, according to Stoicism, is a tool, a resource that can be wielded for both good and bad. It's not money, but our attitudes toward it, our methods of acquiring it, and our ways of using it that determine whether it becomes a force for good or evil in our lives. As Stoics, the quest for wealth becomes virtuous when it aligns with our pursuit of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. When guided by these virtues, money ceases to be a source of potential vice and becomes an enabler of a good, meaningful, and virtuous life. Having explored how Stoic virtues can guide us in acquiring and using wealth ethically, and understanding that money itself is neither good nor bad, it's time to delve into a fascinating case study: Seneca the Younger. Seneca was a statesman, a playwright, and notably a Stoic philosopher who also happened to be immensely wealthy. His life offers us a unique view on how Stoicism and wealth can interact. But how did Seneca balance his great wealth with his Stoic beliefs? Let's dive into the paradox of Seneca, the rich Stoic. First, a bit of history on Seneca. He lived in Rome from around 4 BC to 65 AD and was not just a philosopher, but also an assistant to Emperor Nero. It's clear that Seneca was very rich. His lands and belongings were huge, even by the standards of his time and today. But it's important to remember that a lot of his wealth came from the complicated politics and moral questions of his time. He was a man who had to deal with a lot of extreme power relations and moral problems, which is what led to the emperor who hired him to kill himself. Seneca held that wealth was neither good nor bad in and of itself, which is consistent with Stoic philosophy. He believed that external things are not the cause of human virtue or vice, which was in line with how he felt about money. His writings include the quote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." For Seneca, the problem wasn't having money, it was the constant desire for it. Stoics were mostly interested in how someone thought about having money, how they got it, how they used it, and most importantly, whether their happiness depended on it. In many of his writings, Seneca stressed that virtue should be the final goal. Seneca wrote, "No man can live a happy life or even a supportable life without the study of wisdom." Even though he had a lot of money, Seneca did what he called philosophical exercises, like fasting and other forms of self-deprivation, to remind himself that he could be happy with much less. He trained himself to not care about his money, even though he was enjoying it. Seneca was very aware of how wealth gave people power and duty. It was clear to him that money could be used in both good and bad ways. Seneca may have tried to use his money in a way that was consistent with Stoic values, according to some. He gave money to public works projects, the arts, and intellectual and social projects. He saw his money as a way to live out his Stoic beliefs in a bigger way. According to Seneca, we should so steer our own course that our life will be a matter of rational planning and purposeful behavior. One could say that the way he used his money showed that he believed in rational planning and purposeful behavior. It would be intellectually dishonest not to talk about the problems with Seneca's wealth, though. Some people say that his huge wealth came from being close to Nero, who was known for being a cruel dictator. Also, some of Seneca's money came from lending it at very high interest rates in Britain, which caused a lot of trouble for the people. What does these acts have to do with Stoic virtue? That's not possible, to be honest. But Seneca was very aware of his flaws. In his letters, he said that he wasn't writing as a perfect Stoic, but as a man on the way to wisdom who was facing his own problems and making mistakes. A lot of different things happen in Seneca's life that show how Stoicism and wealth are connected in a complicated way. He is a great example of the Stoic idea that wealth in the outside world doesn't matter, and that virtue is the best thing that can happen. On the other hand, his life shows how moral problems and problems of right and wrong can arise when money and power are involved. His case shows us that the Stoic way is not one of clear answers, but of always figuring out what is right and wrong. It shows that even in the Stoic philosophy, one can be wealthy without sacrificing virtue, as long as they pursue and use their wealth in a way that is consistent with Stoic principles. In the complex dance between Stoicism and getting rich, however, it is a powerful warning that the search for virtue is full of real-life problems and difficulties that demand constant attention and self-reflection. It's hard to say how big or complicated Seneca is. His life is both an example and a warning. It makes us think about our own values, ways of doing things, and final goals as we try to find our way through the muddy seas of today's morals, power, and wealth. The division of control is one of the most important ideas in Stoic philosophy because it helps us understand how to control things. We learn to tell the difference between what we can control and what we can't with this Stoic concept. Another great Stoic philosopher, Epicurus, said it best. We can't control what happens in the outside world, but we can control how we react to it. What does this mean, though, when it comes to making and managing wealth? How can this old rule help us in our current quest for financial freedom? Our worries should be split into two groups, those we can control and those we can't. This is what the division of control means. The idea behind this may seem simple at first, but it has huge effects on our mental and financial health. Stoicism says that the only things we can control are our own deeds, thoughts, and feelings. Things outside of our control, like the economy, changes in the stock market, or even what other people think of us, are out of our control. Focusing on what we can change frees us from the mental pain that often comes with things that we can't plan for. We learn to value the things inside us more than the things outside us that could be taken away at any time. The dichotomy of control tells us that we should focus our efforts on things that we can change in order to find wealth. These include our knowledge, skills, work ethic, and ability to handle money wisely. All of these are important parts of making money. Take business as an example. There are many things you can't control right now that could affect the success of your new business, such as market demand, competition, and the economy. You can, however, control the quality of your product or service, your business plan, and how honestly you run your business. If the business fails for reasons you couldn't have predicted, the split of control tells you to look at what went wrong, learn from it, and move on, instead of giving up or getting angry. This Stoic idea can also help you handle money that you already have. The stock market is typically unstable, and it can change quickly because of many things, from government events to nature disasters. You can't change how the market acts, but you can change how diverse your stock is, how you respond to market changes, and how you spend in general. You can better handle your risk. If you focus on these things, you can change. Focusing on things that can be done isn't the only part of the split of control. Emotional management is also important. When people make financial decisions, they often do so based on strong feelings like fear and greed, which can cause them to make hasty choices that may not be in line with their long-term goals. By following Stoic lessons, we learn to separate our feelings from our financial decisions, which helps us make smarter choices. Some people feel like they've lost power when the economy is bad. Let's talk about that. Stoicism tells us to face the truth of the situation and focus on doing good things that we can control. This could mean cutting costs that aren't necessary, learning new skills to get into a different job market, or even just taking some time to think about what's important in life again. It's about finding wealth within yourself, even when it seems like wealth is going away around you. The difference between having and not having control gives us a strong way to look at our money situations. By following this Stoic principle, we not only get better at making money and managing it, but we also learn how to handle the inevitable difficulties of life in a calm and sensible way. We turn our attention inward to the huge range of options we can control, avoiding the crippling worry that comes from focusing on what we can't reach. It doesn't mean we don't pay attention to outside factors. Instead, we deal with them from a strong emotional and logical position, making the best choices we can in our search for both financial and spiritual wealth. We've been learning more and more about Stoicism's view on wealth, from the advice it gives on ethics to the idea of two types of control. But what part does being happy play in this tapestry? It may seem like being happy with what you have and wanting to do more are opposites. Being happy with what you have can make you lose your drive to do more. But Stoicism, which has a complex view of human feelings and goals, shows us that happiness and drive can live together. To continue, we will talk about how a Stoic sense of happiness and the desire for wealth are not at odds with each other, but rather a balanced, all-around approach to life and money. The Stoic ideal of happiness tells us to be happy with the way things are by focusing on our inner world, our morals, and the things we can change. We shouldn't give up on our goals and be happy with mediocrity. Instead, we should separate our happiness and sense of self-worth from what other people think of us. This makes happiness a stabilizing force, an emotional state that lets us go about our lives without being tossed around by the winds of luck. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic ruler of Rome, said it best: "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This is not a lazy way of thinking. It's a way of seeing the present with a view to the future. The attention is on being happy with the trip itself, not where it leads. But doesn't being happy kill ambition? Not at all, in fact. Being happy with what we have gives us the mental space to clear our minds and focus on our goals. Stoic happiness has a paradox that makes you feel free. We can actually reach our goals more easily if we are happy with what we have. When there is no constant need for more, there is only pure ambition left. This kind of ambition doesn't come from lack or envy, but from a real desire to make a difference in the world. Let's talk about this in terms of money. Say your goal is to be able to live on your own money. The traditional way might involve thinking about money all the time, keeping track of every penny, and going through a lot of stress until you hit your financial goal. But a Stoic would look at this in a different way. Stoic philosophy says that becoming financially independent is a good goal, but you shouldn't put off your health until you reach that goal. You can instead be happy with how things are now while taking smart, steady steps to reach your financial goals. You can plan your spending, make smart investments, and move up in your job without the stress that usually comes with these things. Why? Because being happy isn't dependent on how much money you have. Keeping the internal and the outward, the material and the spiritual, in balance is the only way to be happy and still want more. You can be eager and still be grounded. That's what Stoicism is all about, finding a balance. You get the mental and emotional tools you need to go after money or any other outside goal without becoming a slave to it. Your wealth becomes a tool you use to further your life's purpose, not the purpose itself. The Stoic way of being happy protects you from the ups and downs of life and the unpredictable changes in your luck. It gives us the mental security we need to go after our goals, like getting rich, in a smart, focused way. In the Stoic view, being happy and wanting to do well don't contradict each other. Instead, they help each other. They work together to make a powerful plan for a full life, full of both financial and spiritual wealth. We should remember that the Stoic idea of being happy is the base on which we build our towers of desire as we strive for financial success. It's not just about getting rich, it's about living a full life. We've talked about the Stoic values, happiness, the role of control, and other ideas that make up the Stoic view on wealth. Let's get this down to earth level now. How do we turn these big ideas into practical plans for managing our money every day? In order to stay true to Stoic ideals and handle and grow your wealth, what steps can you actually take? Let's talk about some Stoic-inspired money tips that you can use right away, from the virtues of being thrifty to the wisdom of planning for the long term. Frugality, the Stoic art of living. Simply, frugality is one of the most direct ways that Stoicism can be used to improve personal finances. Stoicism tells us to live in line with nature and pay attention to what we need instead of what we want. Being frugal doesn't mean going without everything. Instead, it means getting rid of the things that aren't necessary so that we have room for the things that really make our lives better. This can have a huge effect on your finances. Think about how much money you could save by eating out less or ending payments to services you don't use very often. These small savings can add up over time, giving you more financial freedom and less stress about money. It's not about saving money, it's about getting the most out of what you have, which is very similar to what Stoics teach. Stoicism is not just a philosophy for the present moment. It also instructs us to think about the long-term effects of our actions. When it comes to long-term financial planning, the Stoic focus on wisdom and care works well. Stoic ideals say that people should save for retirement, build up an emergency fund, and spend wisely for the future. A Stoic view of life helps people develop traits like discipline, forethought, and a lack of attachment to instant satisfaction. By planning for the future, we show the Stoic virtue of wisdom by using our minds to make sure our well-being now and in the future. This is the best kind of financial sense, a perfect mix of Stoic wisdom and current money sense. How to avoid debt. The Stoic view on financial obligation. Debt is another important area where Stoic ideas can help. Stoicism tells us to keep our freedom and lean on few other people. Taking on more and more debt can be seen as a form of slavery because it forces us to make decisions that limit our freedom and choices. Naturally, not all debt can be avoided or is even bad. For instance, getting a mortgage can be a smart financial move. But the Stoic advice to avoid taking on too much debt is a good balance to a society that likes to spend more than it has. You're not only being responsible with your money when you avoid market debt and pay off loans as quickly as possible. In a Stoic sense, you're also recovering your freedom. Investments with virtue. Making moral money decisions. Finally, let's talk about investments. Stoic philosophy puts a lot of weight on doing the right thing and being responsible to others. So, it's not too much of a stretch to say that a Stoic way of trading would take these moral aspects into account. ESG, environmental, social, and governance, funds, and other socially responsible ways to spend can fit well with Stoic ideals. This type of business lets you make a positive impact on society while also possibly making money. So, these are some ways that Stoic philosophy can help you make decisions about your money. Being thrifty, planning ahead for the long term, staying out of debt you don't need, and spending in ways that are moral are not only good financial habits, they are also Stoic virtues. Not only do they make your life rich in money, but they also make it rich in moral and mental well-being. Adopting Stoic ideas into your financial plans lets you create and handle your wealth in a more complete way. It's not just about the money you have in the bank, it's also about making sure your life is healthy in terms of money, ethics, and emotions. Stoic philosophy has been around for a long time and is still very important today because it takes a balanced, all-around view of life. It helps us find a way to get rich that lasts and makes us happy. You are not just living in the financial world if you use these realistic Stoic financial methods. You are thriving in it, led by ideals and wisdom. Stoicism is being used to bring old wisdom to the control of wealth in the modern world. When we look at how Stoicism and wealth are linked, it's important to know how the ideas of Stoicism apply to the complicated and fast-paced world of making money today. These days, the chances of getting rich or losing a lot of money have greatly increased. Startups, cryptocurrencies, and the unstable stock market are all common terms used to talk about wealth today. That brings up the question, how do Stoic values fit with, or maybe disagree with, modern ideas about money and success? Let's look into this interesting contrast between traditional Stoic ideals and values that people hold today. Many times the modern world's focus on financial success, social status, and instant satisfaction seems to go against the traditional Stoic ideals of wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation. But in today's world of money, risk-taking, fast growth, and getting rich are often seen as signs of success, while Stoicism stresses the ideals of balance, control, and living an honest life. There is disagreement, but it's not as impossible to fix as it might seem at first. Many great business people today, for example, show Stoic values, even if they don't call them that. In the modern business world, having the courage to try new things and break the rules, the justice to lead in an honest way, and the temperance to resist greed or short-term desires are all Stoic traits that can help you do well. People often say that startups are like roller coasters, with high points of new ideas and growth and low points of doubt and failure. The Stoic duality of power can help people find their way in this setting. There are often more adaptable and resilient founders who focus on things they can control, like the quality of their product, the ethics of their business deals, and the health and happiness of their workers. The courage to take smart chances, the wisdom to change course when needed, and the justice to build a business that is not only profitable but also good for society are all Stoic traits that play a part. In this unstable world, Stoic principles help people stay balanced no matter what is going on around them. Startup culture often praises overworked individuals and uncontrolled ambition. A Stoic view would disagree with this and support a more balanced and long-lasting way of doing business, one that values not only making money, but also being morale and ethically consistent. Stoic philosophy offers methods for mental and financial resilience in a world where money changes quickly and there are many unknowns. When the economy goes down, the market crashes, or there is other sudden financial trouble, Stoicism tells us to go back to our inner fortress, or the things we can control. It tells us to be careful without being too cautious, to take chances without gambling, and to accept change without blindly following every trend. This is one way that Stoic philosophy can help you stay grounded in the crazy world of modern finance. Surprisingly, the Stoic principles that people followed in ancient times can be applied to the complicated process of making money today. They offer a measured view, letting people strive for success and growth while controlling these drives with ideals like patience and wisdom. As we manage the fast-paced worlds of startups, crypto, and other modern financial trends, Stoicism's calming and logical ideas help us keep our focus on what's important in our quest for wealth. By knowing how this philosophy fits in with the current way of making money, we can find a good mix between wanting to get rich and staying true to our morals, emotions, and beliefs. This is basically the Stoic way to deal with the complicated financial world of the 21st century. It doesn't encourage wild desire or defeated inaction, but rather a smart, good, and balanced chase of all kinds of wealth. As we come to the end of our study, it becomes clearer that the Stoic view of wealth provides a complex yet very useful framework for our time. Stoicism doesn't completely reject the idea of wealth. Instead, it sees it in the bigger picture of people's happiness. The Stoic way to get rich is not through austerity or unchecked greed. Instead, it is a middle road that supports the growth of financial, moral, and spiritual wealth all at the same time. Stoic wisdom helps us figure out what is right and wrong in this fast-paced world of startups, cryptocurrencies, and unstable financial markets. Getting rich is something that can be learned, just like any other part of life. To do this, we should work on developing traits like wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation. Taking charge of what we can while learning to stay calm when things are out of our control are what this teaches us. Stoicism and wealth don't contradict each other, but if you want to be truly happy and wealthy, your desire of wealth must always be in line with Stoic values. We've seen that the old philosophy's rules for getting a wealth of the soul can be easily applied to modern ways of planning finances, evaluating risks, and even investing. With its 2,000-year-old wisdom, Stoic philosophy can help us live a life that is rich not only in material things, but also in virtue, happiness, and general well-being. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher, said, "Wealth does not consist in having many things, but in having few wants." This timeless idea may be the foundation of a good life because it encourages us to rethink what wealth means and align it with virtue and wisdom. This will truly enrich our lives in a way that lasts. This is the way to not only be financially stable, but also have a deeper, more important life. Imagine that you could have a conversation with a philosopher, politician, or writer from a very long time ago. This person would have been in power and known what it's like to be exiled. Think that this person could give you ancient wisdom that would change the way you see the world today and affect how you think, feel, and act. What would you give to hear just 1 hour of wisdom from someone like that? The good news is that you don't have to imagine it because we're going to read Seneca's letters today. Seneca was one of the smartest Stoic thinkers around in ancient Rome. Though Seneca wrote these letters that changed people's lives, He wasn't just a philosopher living in a tower. He was also very involved in the society and politics of his time, giving advice to rulers and living through the ups and downs of political life. His thoughts on the human state weren't just theoretical. He drew them from real life, which means they are just as important today as they were almost 2,000 years ago. As a set of moral letters to his friend Lucilius, Seneca's letters are some of the most moving intellectual writings ever written. Seneca gives useful advice in them about many topics, such as how to deal with sadness and hardship, as well as how to grow as a person and moral issues. We're about to go on a trip through 7 of Seneca's most important letters that will change us. Every single one of these letters gives us lasting advice, useful tips, and a deep understanding of how people work that can make our lives better in unthinkable ways. Come with me as I read you one old letter at a time to find out how to live a happy life. Stay the same way, my dear Lucilius. Free yourself for your own good. Get together and save your time, which has been taken from you, stolen from you, or just slipped their hands. Believe that what I'm saying is true, that some times are taken away from us, others are slowly taken away, and still others slip away from us. Loss because of laziness, on the other hand, is the worst kind. Paying close attention to the problem also shows that most of our lives are spent doing bad things. A good chunk of them are spent doing nothing, and the rest of them are spent doing things that aren't helpful. Which man do you know who values his time, who knows how valuable each day is, and who knows that he is dying every day? Because we are wrong to look forward to death. Death has already taken over most of our lives. The years that are behind us are now in its hands. That being said, Lucilius, do what you say you are doing in your letter. Hold each hour in your hands. Do the things you need to do today, and you won't have to rely on tomorrow as much. Life moves quickly while we put things off. Lucilius, we have nothing as ours but time. Nature gave us ownership of this one thing, but it's so temporary and slippery that anyone can take it away from us. What naive people these people are. People don't think of themselves as in debt when they receive something valuable, like time. They let the cheapest, least useful things that are easy to replace be added to their balance after they've been bought. Still, time is the one loan that no one can return, not even someone who is thankful for it. You might be interested in how I get better, since I preach to you so freely. I'll be honest, my spending account is balanced, which is what you'd expect from someone who is carefree but careful. Perhaps I can't say I don't waste anything, but I can tell you what I do waste and how and why I do it. It's because of these things that I am poor. My position, on the other hand, is like that of many people who are poor through no fault of their own. Everyone forgives them, but no one comes to their aid. So, what is the situation? This. I don't think someone is poor if the little that's left is enough for them. You should keep what is truly yours, though, and you can't start too soon. Our ancestors thought that it was too late to spare when you got to the very bottom of the barrel and saw nothing left. It's a small amount, and the quality is awful. Keep going with what you're doing and move as quickly as you can so that you can enjoy a better, more peaceful mind for longer. Without a doubt, you will enjoy the time you spend making your mind better and more at peace with itself. But the pleasure of thought when your mind is so clean it shines is very different. Of course, you remember how happy you were when you took off your boyish clothes, put on a man's toga, and were led to the hall. However, once you have grown up and gained wisdom, you can look for even greater joy. Because what we remember most is not being boys, but something worse, being boys. This is an even worse situation because we have the wisdom of old age, along with the stupidities of childhood and even those of infancy. Little things scare boys, shadows scare kids, and we all fear both. Just keep going, and you'll see that some things are less scary just because they scare us so much. For the first time, what fate it is that you have long been laboring under. Take my word for it. Since the day you were born, you are being led thither. We must ponder this thought and thoughts of the like nature if we desire to be calm as we await that last hour, the fear of which makes all previous hours uneasy. But I must end my letter. Let me share with you the saying which pleased me today. It too is called from another man's garden. Poverty, brought into conformity with the law of nature, is great wealth. Do you know what limits that law of nature ordains for us? Merely to avert hunger, thirst, and cold. In order to banish hunger and thirst, it is not necessary for you to pay court at the doors of the proud, or to submit to the stern frown, or to the kindness that humiliates. Nor is it necessary for you to scour the seas or go campaigning. Nature's needs are easily provided and ready to hand. It is the superfluous things for which men sweat, the superfluous things that wear our toils threadbare, that force us to grow old in camp, that dash us upon foreign shores. That which is enough is ready to our hands. He who has made a fair compact with poverty is rich. I feel, my dear Lucilius, that I am being not only reformed, but transformed. I do not yet, however, assure myself or indulge the hope that there are no elements left in me which need to be changed. Of course, there are many that should be made more compact, or made thinner, or be brought into greater prominence, and indeed, this very fact is proof that my spirit is altered into something better, that it can see its own faults, of which it was previously ignorant. In certain cases, sick men are congratulated because they themselves have perceived that they are sick. I, therefore, wish to impart to you this sudden change in myself. Self, I should then begin to place a trust in our friendship, the true friendship which hope and fear and self-interest cannot sever, the friendship in which and for the sake of which men meet death. I can show you many who have lacked not a friend, but a friendship. This, however, cannot possibly happen when souls are drawn together by identical inclinations into an alliance of honorable desires. And why can it not happen? Because in such cases, men know that they have all things in common, especially their troubles. You cannot conceive what distinct progress I notice that each day brings to me, and when you say, "Give me also a share in these gifts which you have found so helpful," I reply that I am anxious to heap all these privileges upon you, and that I am glad to learn in order that I may teach. Nothing will ever please me, no matter how excellent or beneficial, if I must retain the knowledge of it to myself. And if wisdom were given me under the express condition that it must be kept hidden and not uttered, I should refuse it. No good thing is pleasant to possess without friends to share it. I shall therefore send to you the actual books, and in order that you may not waste time in searching here and there for profitable topics, I shall mark certain passages so that you can turn at once to those which I approve and admire. Of course, however, the living voice and the intimacy of a common life will help you more than the written word. You must go to the scene of action, first because men put more faith in their eyes than in their ears, and second because the way is long if one follows precepts, but short and helpful if one follows patterns. Cleanthes could not have been the express image of Zeno if he had merely heard his lectures. He shared in his life, saw into his hidden purposes, and watched him to see whether he lived according to his own rules. Plato, Aristotle, and the whole throng of sages who were destined to go each his different way derived more benefit from the character than from the words of Socrates. It was not the classroom of Epicurus, but living together under the same roof, that made great men of Metrodorus, Hermachus, and Polyaenus. Therefore, I summon you not merely that you may derive benefit, but that you may confer benefit, for we can assist each other greatly. Meanwhile, I owe you my little daily contribution. You shall be told what pleased me today in the writings of Hesiod. It is these words, "What progress," you ask, "have I made? I have begun to be a friend to myself." That was indeed a great benefit. Such a person can never be alone. You may be sure that such a man is a friend to all mankind. It is the month of December, and yet the city is at this very moment in a sweat. License is given to the general merrymaking. Everything resounds with mighty preparations, as if the Saturnalia differed at all from the usual business day. So true it is that the difference is nil, that I regard as correct the remark of the man who said once, "December was a month, now it is a year." If I had you with me, I should be glad to consult you and find out what you think should be done, whether we ought to make no change in our daily routine, or whether, in order not to be out of sympathy with the ways of the public, we should dine in gayer fashion and off the toga. As it is now, we Romans have changed our dress for the sake of pleasure and holiday-making, though in former times that was only customary when the state was disturbed and had fallen on evil days. I am sure that if I know you right, playing the part of an umpire, you would have wished that we should be neither like the Liberty Cap, SE throng in all ways, nor in all ways unlike them, unless perhaps this is just a season when we ought to lay down the law to the soul and bid it be alone in refraining from pleasures, just when the whole mob has let Ito in pleasures. For this is the shest proof which a man can get of his own constancy, if he neither seeks the things which are seductive and allure him to luxury, nor is led into them. It shows much more courage to remain dry and sober when the mob is drunk and vomiting, but it shows greater self-control to refuse to withdraw oneself, and to do what the crowd does, but in a different way, thus neither making oneself conspicuous nor becoming one of the crowd. For one may keep holiday without extravagance. I am so firmly determined, however, to test the constancy of your mind, that drawing from the teachings of great men, I shall give you also a lesson. Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, "Is this the condition that I feared?" It is precisely in times of immunity from care that the soul should toughen itself beforehand for occasions of greater stress, and it is while fortune is kind that it should fortify itself against her violence. In days of peace, the soldier performs maneuvers, throws up earthworks with no enemy in sight, and wearies himself by gratuitous toil in order that he may be equal to unavoidable toil. If you would not have a man flinch when the crisis comes, train him before it comes. Such is the course which those men I have followed, who in their imitation of poverty have every month come almost to want, that they might never recoil from what they had so often rehearsed. You need not suppose that I mean meals like Timon or Poa huts, or any other device which luxurious millionaires use to beguile the tedium of their lives. Let the pallet be a real one, and the cloak. Let the bread be hard and grimy. Endure all this for 3 or 4 days at a time, sometimes for more, so that it may be a test of yourself instead of a mere hobby. Then, I assure you, my dear Lucilius, you will leap for joy when filled with a pennyworth of food, and you will understand that a man's peace of mind does not depend upon fortune, for even when angry, she grants enough for our needs. There is no reason, however, why you should think that you are doing anything great, for you will merely be doing what many thousands of slaves and many thousands of poor men are doing every day. But you may credit yourself with this item, that you will not be doing it under compulsion, and that it will be as easy for you to endure it permanently as to make the experiment from time to time. Let us practice our strokes on the dummy. Let us become intimate with poverty, so that fortune may not catch us off our guard. We shall be rich with all the more comfort if we once learn how far poverty is from being a burden. Even Epicurus, the teacher of pleasure, used to observe stated intervals, during which he satisfied his hunger in niggardly fashion. He wished to see whether he thereby fell short of full and complete happiness, and if so, by what amount he fell short, and whether this amount was worth purchasing at the price of great effort. At any rate, he makes such a statement in the well-known letter written to Polius in the Archon's ship of Chinus. Indeed, he boasts that he himself lived on less than a penny, but that Metrodorus, whose progress was not yet so great, needed a whole penny. Do you think that there can be fullness on such fare? Yes, and there is pleasure also. Not that shifty and fleeting pleasure which needs a fillip now and then, but a pleasure that is steadfast and sure. For though water, barley meal, and crusts of barley bread are not a cheerful diet, yet it is the highest kind of pleasure to be able to derive pleasure from this sort of food, and to have reduced one's needs to that modum which no unfairness of fortune can snatch away. Even prison fare is more generous, and those who have been set apart for capital punishment are not so meanly fed by the man who is to execute them. Therefore, what a noble soul must one have to descend of one's own free will to a diet which even those who have been sentenced to death have not to fear. This is indeed forestalling the spear thrusts of fortune. So begin, my dear Lucilius, to follow the custom of these men, and set apart certain days on which you shall withdraw from your business and make yourself at home with the scantiest fare. Establish business relations with poverty. Dare, O my friend, to scorn the sight of wealth and mould, thyself to kinship with thy God. For he alone is in kinship with God who has scorned wealth. Of course, I do not forbid you to possess it, but I would have you reach the point at which you possess it dauntlessly. This can be accomplished only by persuading yourself that you can live happily without it as well as with it, and by regarding riches always as likely to elude you. But I have to start folding up my letter now. "Pay off your debts first," you yell. "Here is a draft on Epicurus. He will pay down the sum." You can't help but believe this because you've had both slaves and enemies. But anger does burn against all kinds of people. It comes from love as well as hate, and it shows up in serious situations as well as jokes and fun. And it doesn't matter how important the cause is. What matters is what kind of soul it touches. It's like fire. It doesn't matter how big the flame is, what kind of soul it burns into. You are doing an excellent thing, one which will be wholesome for you if, as you write me, you are persisting in your effort to attain sound understanding. It is foolish to pray for this when you can acquire it from yourself. We do not need to uplift our hands towards heaven or to beg the keeper of a temple to let us approach his idol's ear, as if in this way our prayers were more likely to be heard. God is near you, he is with you, he is within you. This is what I mean, Lucilius. A Holy Spirit indwells within us, one who marks our good and bad deeds and is our guardian. As we treat this Spirit, so are we treated by it. Indeed, no man can be good without the help of God. Can one rise superior to fortune unless God helps him to rise? He it is that gives noble and upright counsel. In each good man a God doth dwell. But what God know we not. If ever you have come upon a grove that is full of ancient trees, which have grown to an unusual height, shutting out a view of the sky by a veil of patched and intertwining branches, then the loftiness of the forest, the seclusion of the spot, and your marvel at the thick, unbroken shade in the midst of the open spaces will prove to you the presence of deity. Or if a cave, made by the deep crumbling of the rocks, holds up a mountain on its arch, a place not built with hands, but hollowed out into such spaciousness by natural causes, your soul will be deeply moved by a certain intimation of the existence of God. We worship the sources of mighty rivers. We erect altars at places where great streams burst suddenly from hidden sources. We adore springs of hot water as divine and consecrate certain pools because of their dark waters or their immeasurable depth. If you see a man who is unterrified in the midst of dangers, untouched by desires, happy in adversity, peaceful amid the storm, who looks down upon men from a higher plane and views the gods on a footing of equality, will not a feeling of reverence for him steal over you? Will you not say, "This quality is too great and too lofty to be regarded as resembling this petty body in which it dwells? A divine power has descended upon that man." When a soul rises superior to other souls, when it is under control, when it passes through every experience as if it were of small account, when it smiles at our fears and at our prayers, it is stirred by a force from heaven. A thing like this cannot stand upright unless it be propped by the divine. Therefore, a greater part of it abides in that place from which it came down to earth. Just as the rays of the sun do indeed touch the earth, but still abide at the source from which they are sent, even so, the great and hallowed soul which has come down, in order that we may have a nearer knowledge of divinity, does indeed associate with us, but still cleaves to its origin. On that source it depends, thither it turns its gaze and strives to go, and it concerns itself with our doings only as a being superior to ourselves. What then is such a soul? One which is resplendent with no external good, but only with its own. For what is more foolish than to praise in a man the qualities which come from without? And what is more insane than to marvel at characteristics which may at the next instant be passed on to someone else? A golden bit does not make a better horse. The lion with a gilded mane, in the process of being trained and forced by weariness to endure the decoration, is sent into the arena in quite a different way from the wild lion whose spirit is unbroken. The latter indeed, bold in his attack as nature wished him to be, impressive because of his wild appearance, and it is his glory that none can look on him without fear, is favored in preference to the other lion, that languid and gilded brute. No man ought to glory except in that which is his own. We praise a vine if it makes the shoots teem with increase, if by its weight it bends to the ground the very poles which hold its fruit. Would any man prefer to this vine one from which golden grapes and golden leaves hang down? In a vine, the virtue peculiarly its own is fertility. In man also we should praise that which is his own. Suppose that he has a retinue of comely slaves and a beautiful house, that his farm is large and his income large. None of these things is in the man himself. They are all on the outside. Praise the quality in him which cannot be given or snatched away, that which is the peculiar property of the man. Do you ask what this is? It is soul and reason brought to perfection in the soul. For man is a reasoning animal. Therefore, man's highest good is attained if he has fulfilled the good for which nature designed him at birth. And what is it which this reason demands of him? The easiest thing in the world, to live in accordance with his own nature. But this is turned into a hard task by the general madness of mankind. We push one another into vice, and how can a man be recalled to salvation when he has none to restrain him and all mankind to urge him on? I receive great pleasure from your letter. Kindly allow me to use these words in their everyday meaning without insisting upon their Stoic import. For we Stoics hold that pleasure is a vice. Very likely it is a vice, but we are accustomed to use the word when we wish to indicate a happy state of mind. I am aware that if we test words by our formula, even pleasure is a thing of ill repute, and joy can be attained only by the wise. For joy is an elation of spirit, of a spirit which trusts in the goodness and truth of its own possessions. The common usage, however, is that we derive great joy from a friend's position as consul, or from his marriage, or from the birth of his child. But these events, so far from being matters of joy, are more often the beginnings of sorrow to come. No, it is a characteristic of real joy that it never ceases and never changes into its opposite. Accordingly, when our Virgil speaks of the evil joys of the mind, his words are eloquent but not strictly appropriate, for no joy can be evil. He has given the name joy to pleasures, and has thus expressed his meaning, for he has conveyed the idea that men take delight in their own evil. Nevertheless, I was not wrong in saying that I received great pleasure from your letter. For although an ignorant man may derive joy if the cause be an honorable one, yet since his emotion is wayward and is likely soon to take another direction, I call it pleasure, for it is inspired by an opinion concerning a spurious good. It exceeds control and is carried to excess. But to return to the subject, let me tell you what delighted me in your letter. You have your words under control. You are not carried away by your language or borne beyond the limits which you have determined upon. Many writers are tempted by the charm of some alluring phrase to some topic other than that which they had set themselves to discuss, but this has not been so in your case. All your words are compact and suited to the subject. You say all that you wish, and you mean still more than you say. This is a proof of the importance of your subject matter, showing that your mind, as well as your words, contains nothing superfluous or bombastic. I do, however, find some metaphors, not indeed daring ones, but the kind which have stood the test of use. I find similes also. Of course, if anyone forbids us to use them, maintaining that poets alone have that privilege, he has not apparently read any of our ancient prose writers who had not yet learned to affect a style that should win applause. For those writers whose eloquence was simple and directed only towards proving their case are full of comparisons, and I think that these are necessary, not for the same reason which makes them necessary for the poets, but in order that they may serve as props to our feebleness, to bring both speaker and listener face to face with the subject under discussion. For example, I am at this very moment reading Sextius. He is a keen man and a philosopher who, though he writes in Greek, has the Roman standards of ethics. One of his similes appealed especially to me, that of an army marching in hollow square in a place where the enemy might be expected to appear from any quarter, ready for battle. Gentle when he is inflicting tortures, or most generous when he is engaged in looting, or most temperate when he is in the midst of drunkenness and lust. Thus it follows that we are unwilling to be reformed just because we believe ourselves to be the best of men. Alexander was roaming as far as India, ravaging tribes that were but little known even to their neighbors. During the blockade of a certain city, while he was reconnoitering the walls and hunting for the weakest spot in the fortifications, he was wounded by an arrow. Nevertheless, he long continued the siege, intent on finishing what he had begun. The pain of his wound, however, as the surface became dry and as the flow of blood was checked, increased. His leg gradually became numb as he sat on his horse, and finally, when he was forced to withdraw, he exclaimed, "All men swear that I am the son of Jupiter, but this wound cries out that I am mortal. Let us also act in the same way, each man according to his lot in life. Is stultified by flattery. We should say to him who flatters us, 'You call me a man of sense, but I understand how many of the things which I crave are useless, and how many of the things which I desire will do me harm. Animals learn how much food or drink they should eat or drink when they are full, but I don't even know that. I do not yet know how much I can hold. I shall now show you how you may know that you are not wise. The wise man is joyful, happy, and calm, unshaken. He lives on a plane with the gods. Now go question yourself. If you are never downcast, if your mind is not harassed by my apprehension through anticipation of what is to come, if day and night your soul keeps on its even and unswerving course, upright and content with itself, then you have attained to the greatest good that mortals can possess. If, however, you seek pleasures of all kinds in all directions, you must know that you are as far short of wisdom as you are short of joy. Joy is the goal which you desire to reach, but you are wandering from the path. If you expect to reach your goal while you are in the midst of riches and official titles, in other words, if you seek joy in the midst of cares, these objects for which you strive so eagerly, as if they would give you happiness and pleasure, are merely causes of grief. All men of this stamp, I maintain, are pressing on in pursuit of joy, but they do not know where they may obtain a joy that is both great and enduring. One person seeks it in feasting and self-indulgence, another in canvassing for honors and in being surrounded by a throng of clients, another in his mistress, another in idle display of culture and in literature that has no power to heal. All these men are led astray by delights, which are deceptive and short-lived, like drunkenness, for example, which pays for a single hour of hilarious madness by a sickness of many days, or like applause and the popularity of enthusiastic approval, which are gained and atoned for at the cost of great mental disquietude. Reflect, therefore, on this, that the effect of wisdom is a joy that is unbroken and continuous. The mind of the wise man is like the ultra-lunar firmament. Eternal calm pervades that region. You have then a reason for wishing to be wise if the wise man is never deprived of joy. This joy springs only from the knowledge that you possess the virtues. None but the brave, the just, the self-restrained can rejoice. And when you query, "What do you mean? Don't the stupid and bad people also rejoice?" I reply, no more than lions who have caught their prey. When men have wearied themselves with wine and lust, when night fails them before the debauch is done, when the pleasures which they have heaped upon a body that is too small to hold them begin to fester, at such times they utter in their wretchedness those lines of Virgil: "Thou knowest how amid false glittering joys we spent that last of nights." Pleasure lovers spend every night amid false glittering joys, and just as if it were their last. But the joy which comes to the gods and to those who imitate the gods is not broken off, nor does it cease. But it would surely cease were it borrowed from without, just because it is not in the power of another to bestow, neither is it subject to another's whims. That which fortune has not given, she cannot take away. Every day and every hour reveal to us what a nothing we are and remind us with some fresh evidence that we have forgotten our weakness. Then, as we plan for eternity, they compel us to look over our shoulders at death. Do you ask me what this preamble means? It refers to Cornelius Senior, a distinguished and capable Roman knight whom you knew. From humble beginnings, he had advanced himself to fortune, and the rest of the path already lay downhill before him, for it is easier to grow in dignity than to make a start, and money is very slow to come where there is poverty. Until it can creep out of that, it goes halting. Senior was already bordering upon wealth, helped in that direction by two very powerful assets, knowing how to make money and how to keep it. Also, either one of these gifts might have made him a rich man. Here was a person who lived most simply, careful of health and wealth alike. He had, as usual, called upon me early in the morning, and had then spent the whole day, even up to nightfall, at the bedside of a friend who was seriously and hopelessly ill. After a comfortable dinner, he was suddenly seized with an acute attack of quinsy, and with the breath clogged tightly in his swollen throat, barely lived until daybreak. So, within a very few hours after the time when he had been performing all the duties of a sound and healthy man, he passed away. He who was venturing investments by land and sea, who had also entered public life and left no type of business untried, during the very realization of financial success, and during the very onrush of the money that flowed into his coffers, was snatched from the world. Graft now thy pears, Malibus, and set out thy vines in their order. But how foolish it is to set out one's life when one is not even the owner of the morrow, or what madness it is to plot out far-reaching hopes, to say, I will buy and build, loan and call in money, win titles of honor, and then, old and full of years, I will surrender myself to a life of ease. Believe me when I say that everything is doubtful, even for those who are prosperous. No one has any right to draw for himself upon the future. The very thing that we grasp slips through our hands, and chance cuts into the actual hour which we are crowding so full. Time does indeed roll along by fixed law, but as in darkness. And what is it to me whether nature's course is sure when my own is unsure? We plan distant voyages and long postponed homecomings. After roaming over foreign shores, we plan for military service and the slow reward of hard campaigns. We canvass for governorships and the promotions of one office after another, and all the while death stands at our side. But since we never think of it except as it affects our neighbor, instances of mortality press upon us day by day, to remain in our minds only as long as they stir our wonder. Yet what is more foolish than to wonder that something which may happen every day has happened on any one day? There is indeed a limit fixed for us, just where the remorseless law of faith has fixed it, but none of us knows how near he is to this limit. Therefore, let us so order our minds as if we had come to the very end. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's account every day. The greatest flaw in life is that it is always imperfect, and that a certain part of it is postponed. One who daily puts the finishing touches to his life is never in want of time, and yet from this want arise fear and a craving for the future which eats away the mind. There is nothing more wretched than worry over the outcome of future events as to the amount or the nature of that which remains. Our troubled minds are set aflutter with unaccountable fear. How then shall we avoid this vassal? In one way only, if there be no reaching forward in our life, if it is withdrawn into itself. For he only is anxious about the future to whom the present is unprofitable. But when I have paid my soul its due, when a soundly balanced mind knows that a day differs not a whit from eternity, no matter what problems or days the future brings, the soul looks out from high places and laughs heartily to itself when it thinks about how the ages keep going by. Because what trouble can the changes and instability of chance cause if you are sure in the face of what is uncertain? So, my dear Lilius, start living right away and count each day as a separate life. He who has done this, whose daily life has been a. Then came that most debased of prayers, in which Miasa does not refuse to suffer weakness, deformity, and as a climax, the pain of crucifixion, provided only that he may prolong the breath of life amid these sufferings. Fashion me with a palsied hand, weak of foot, and build upon me a crook-back hump. Shake my teeth till they rattle. All is well if my life remains. Save, oh save it, I pray you, though I sit on the piercing cross. There he is praying for that, which if it had befallen him would be the most pitiable thing in the world, and seeking a postponement of suffering as if he were asking for life. I should deem him most despicable had he wished to live up to the very time of crucifixion. Nay, he cries, you may weaken my body if you will, only leave the breath of life in my battered and ineffective carcass, mime me if you will, but allow me, misshapen and deformed as I may be, just a little more time in the world. You may nail me up and set my seat upon the piercing cross. Is it worthwhile to weigh down upon one's own wound and hang impaled upon a gibbet, that one may but postpone something which is the bane of troubles, the end of punishment? Is it worth all this to possess the breath of life, only to give it up? What would you ask for, Mias, but the indulgence of heaven? Why does he write such sexy and inappropriate poetry? Why does he accept panic and fear? Why does he beg so desperately for life? He must never have heard Virgil read those words. Tell me, is death so wretched as that? He asks for the worst part of suffering to last longer, and what's even worse, for suffering to last longer. What does he gain by doing this? He only gets to live longer, but what kind of life is a lingering death? I think he would have had a lot of reasons to die before he went to the cross. Now, if you can, deny that nature is very kind in making death inevitable. Many men have been willing to make even more shameful deals, like betraying friends to live longer or debasing their children on purpose to enjoy the light of day, which sees all their sins. We need to stop wanting to live and learn that it doesn't matter when you die. As this insightful look into Seneca's letters from a Stoic comes to a close, it's important to pause and think about the life-changing lessons this old philosopher has taught us. Today, we're going over a carefully chosen group of letters that talk about a huge range of topics, from the meaning of time to the complexities of human relationships, from everyday life to our innermost thoughts. Even though they were written almost 2,000 years ago, these lessons are still very useful for anyone who wants to grow personally and philosophically. We talked about how important time is in letter 1, which is called saving time. Seneca tells us to be greedy with our time and remember that every moment we spend is a moment we'll never get back. This isn't just a Stoic idea. It's a good idea for everyone in this day and age of endless distractions and lightning-fast progress. It's more important than ever to learn how to use and value time well. Letter 4, which is about terrors of death, makes us think about our own deaths. Seneca says that we can live a more complete and real life if we understand and accept what will happen. It's not that we should become overly obsessed with death, but that we should use it as a guide to live each day with purpose and focus. The next part of our journey was letter 6, which was about sharing knowledge. In this letter, Seneca talks about the beauty of shared wisdom. He says that the knowledge we gain is more valuable when we share it with others. Sharing knowledge isn't just a virtue in today's connected world, it's also a duty. After that, we read letter 18 about festivals and fasting, which was a moving letter about living a simpler life. In a consumerist world where wants are often mistaken for needs, Seneca tells us how important it is to be happy and willing to be uncomfortable. This practice helps us be grateful for what we have and gets us ready for times when we might really be in pain or trouble. In letter 41 about the God within us, we talked about the idea that human reason has a divine quality. The idea isn't just a thought, it's a call to think and act in ways that reflect our greatest potential. Personal growth isn't just about getting better at things and getting skills, it's also about tapping into the wisdom we all have deep inside us. Letter 59, Pleasure and Joy, was another stop on our trip. This letter is about how important it is to have lasting joy and valuable relationships instead of short-lived pleasures. Seneca makes a distinction between happiness that is only on the surface and the deep joy that comes from real ties with other people. In a time when social media often seems to separate us rather than unite us, these feelings are very important. Finally, we looked at letter 101, which was about the futility of planning ahead. Seneca tells us to accept that life is temporary and to adapt to change in a world where people are always planning the smallest details. This Stoic concept may be the most freeing because it gives us a way to think that can help us handle any problem life throws at us. At the end of this study, keep in mind that these Seneca quotes and lessons are more than just words on a page or images on a computer. It's like hearing whispers from thousands of years ago that can still change the way our hearts and minds feel today. Hold one idea close to your heart as you read this. Let it move your heart and lead what you do. You don't just listen to Stoic wisdom, you live it. You are the living, breathing expression of promise who is always on the verge of a huge change. Don't stay the same after leaving. Today should be the day that you felt something awaken inside you, not in terms of who you are, but of who you could become. Because every word has done its job, if even one letter, one line, or one thought leads you to a better life. This is your life, a precious patchwork of moments that come and go. Do not leave it open, not to the sky, but into the unknown parts of your own being is the best trip. May your journey be the best thing you ever do.